little brother has taken control, shoveling dirt in every hole. Predators to condemn your soul, watching you and watching me. We're all connected but separated, misunderstood and so frustrated. A million armies of one have invaded, watching you and watching me. We live behind glass curtains and act like nothing's wrong. Soon you will belong. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. We wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye, we're the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. We the people have taken over. We the people are little brother, standing by to dethrone each other, watching you and watching me. Paranoid, the lens is our weapon, desensitized in our lust for attention, democratized by our voyeur obsessions, watching you and watching me. Slaves to perfection, don't let them project you as you are. Feel your every flaw. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye, we're the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Stay in line, don't make a mistake. We're watching. We watched you for so long. We wait for you to fall. We will expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching
Let your experience begin right now. From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio. You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on Twitter, @SpacedOutRadio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can follow us on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride as we are live on Spaced Out Radio.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Said the deeper I go, the deeper I fall.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, and thank you for listening in at spacedoutradio.com on Spreaker and Revolution Radio as we welcome you to tonight's show as we broadcast out of the Great White North in Uncle Jimbo's cabin, live on this Thursday night, early Friday morning if you're on the East Coast. Here at Spaced Out Radio, we are doing this thing 3 hours a night, 7 days a week. Why? We get asked that a lot. It's because we want to be your official one-stop shop when it comes to the cryptid world, conspiratorial, paranormal, and so much more. If you like our theme music, you can go to our website and click on the guitar god himself, Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses. He is the official music of Spaced Out Radio. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Find us on TuneIn. Download our shows on iTunes. And, of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. At this time, we'd like to say hello to everyone taking part in the Revolution Radio chat room on the High Plains Talk Radio Network, in the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker, along with our fans on Facebook at Euphoria Chronicles, Chronicles of the Unknown, Forest Newt Moon Paranormal, and our flagship chat room, the SOR Space Travelers. If you haven't signed up for the SOR Space Travelers Club, well, it's time. That's because it's only $5 a month, and your name gets put into monthly prize draws, access to a private group interviews, access to a special section on our website, and much more. Hey, we're going to give you a heck of a lot more than just access to our archives. While on our website, you can read our latest blogs. You can also check out our SOR Spacewire for your latest and weird news from Eric Markham. Tonight's show is brought to you by Rivulet Reiki and Readings, providing healings in person or at a distance. PurplePlates.com, helping heal your body, mind, and soul. The New Agora newspaper is the official paper of this show. The iTunes app, Spirit Storybox, it's the official ghost hunting app of SOR. And remember, if you're a listener on Revolution Radio, do us a favor. Take the time to go visit freedomslips.com and donate today, because Revolution Radio is a donation station financed by you. From where I broadcast here in the mountains of British Columbia, it's about a 4-hour drive to Kelowna, BC. Nestled in the desert area of the province, the big black lake that surrounds the city of over 100,000, Okanagan Lake, has a mystery that has encapsulated people for literally hundreds of years. Okanagan Lake is 135 kilometers long. It's between 4 and 5 kilometers wide, has a surface area of 348 square kilometers. Yeah, it's pretty big. The lake, created thousands of years ago by melting glaciers, has a secret. And this secret is what is apparently hiding in it. Ogopogo is said to be 40 to 50 foot long and a sea serpent. Sightings have been happening for hundreds of years, starting with First Nations who believe this creature, whatever it is, patrols the lake and the cavernous tunnels that run all underneath it. Scientists trying to debunk the mystery say it's some sort of freshwater eel or a large white sturgeon people are seeing. Well, the witnesses know what they saw. Andrew Bennett has been involved in Ogopogo's history for a number of years now, and on his website, sunnyokanagan.com, he has a special collection for this mythical creature we're talking about tonight. And as someone who has swam in Okanagan Lake, I got to tell you, I am now leery about going back in. Andrew Bennett, welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. It's always good to have another British Columbia voice on this air. How are you?
Oh, just fine. Thank you. Yes. Looking forward to the interview.
I am excited to have you a part of this because as someone who is born and raised in British Columbia, I have been to Kelowna 100 times, maybe even more. It is one of the most beautiful cities, I believe, in Canada. And why don't you take the time to explain to our American listeners, since the majority of our audience is American, a little bit about Kelowna?
Oh, well, it began as a small town years ago. Then Lake Bridge was built, and it grew phenomenally since then in the 50s. So it's a growing metropolis. It's the fastest growing part of BC, one of the fastest growing parts of Canada, and has been since the 80s. Even where I'm in West Bank, all through from the bridge from Kelowna south to West Bank and West Kelowna, there's shopping malls on either side of the road all the way through. It's just a highly developed area. And very commercial.
And I have to tell you, when I was a child, the big thing about going to West Bank and Kelowna wasn't just how beautiful it was. My parents used to take me every couple summers up there, and we'd do some camping. And of course, me being a young guy, I would always want to go to old McDonald's farm. They had a Flintstones park there, and then wild and wet water slides were there as well. So it's a real touristy type place because I got to be honest, some of my best memories have happened in that area as a child growing up.
Oh, yeah. Well, my dad bought out the Flintstones and turned it into McCurdy Shopping Mall. That's so that's gone. We have a few memorabilia on the farm from the Flintstones, though. But and the wild and wet, that's gone. Now it's all subdivided. And McDonald's farm, that also was subdivided, too. So all three of those places are gone now, several years now. So it's all been development. Like I say, it's a fast growing area with the big shopping malls on either side of the road. It's really commercialized.
And you know what has really spun the Okanagan now, for people who are wondering out there, it has become probably one of the best areas in the world to grow grapes for wines. There's wineries everywhere now, and the Okanagan wine selection has really taken over what that part of the province is all about.
Yeah, well, that's true, but there's pluses and minuses. Some wineries make money, and some probably don't do as well as others. I don't know how to describe it, but it is the main industry here is definitely turned to the wine industry. That's true, but individual wineries may or may not make that much money depending on what they have to offer.
Absolutely, Andrew. And one of the things that I love about the Okanagan is it's one of those areas, as we break down the area for people to kind of get a picture in their mind, it's one of those areas where it is very seasonal. In the summer, it gets up to 100, 110 degrees Fahrenheit. You know, it's in a very desert location, yet it's surrounded by mountains that have ski mountains. It's really one of those areas where you could go fishing in the morning, golfing in the afternoon, and skiing in the evening. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is an area that is absolutely... It has a little bit for everybody, and that's why everybody is kind of congregating there, from people to live there full time to movie stars and athletes who buy property along the lake just to have a beautiful view and a nice getaway.
yeah, there's a saying along the lakeshore towards this area where I've been doing my research that most of these houses are owned by football players and other type of sports people that have lots and lots of millions of dollars. Some of these houses are 2 lots and huge. And we were just remarking, I took a tour with Murray Cott from Regional District about 3 weeks ago down the lake. Supposed to be some high-up people, I'm not sure who, coming probably the end of this month. You might be able to speculate. And they're going to show them the pictographs along the lake. And on their way back, we were remarking about all these really expensive houses down the beach. Yeah. So that's a big part of the waterfront is really expensive houses.
And let's not forget your hockey team, which also has a uniform with the Ogopogo on it, the Kelowna Rockets of the Western Hockey League, which is where a bunch of junior players try to get drafted into the NHL. It's a big-time hockey town, too, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. My cousin Rusty had us out almost every second week a while back to the, not the Rockets, but the West Side Warriors. He was instrumental getting the Page place built here in West Bank, or West Kelowna. And so we have a hockey team here in West Kelowna as well as the Rockets in Kelowna.
I'm a big fan of the city indeed, and of course if you're a golfer, there's literally dozens of golf courses all around as we play Happy Tourist here on Spaced Out Radio for the Okanagan here. It really is a beautiful place to live, and when you have that beautiful place to live, it's weird how it has, every city or town, whether it's in the United States, whether it's in Canada, there always seems to be a little bit of a mystery surrounding every town. And with Kelowna, they have really adopted, and Penticton as well, which is at the south end of the lake, and everywhere in between, you've really adopted the Ogopogo as the area's national mascot, haven't you?
Oh, yeah, there was a debate, months ago, and somebody proposed that we really need to remove the Ogopogo from the parade and et cetera, and focus on nature and kayaking and things. And every other place has kayaking and hiking, and what makes us any different? Ogopogo. So they very soon got on track and said, no, we're not going to take away the Ogopogo from our float. We're going to keep promoting Ogopogo as the mascot of the Okanagan.
That amazes me that someone would actually want to do that, because when everybody thinks of your area in the province, they think about Okanagan Lake, they think about the Ogopogo. It's just part of the history. To have somebody who would actually want to get rid of that and say, well, maybe it's time we move on and talk about nature. Well, the Ogopogo is about nature. It's about the lake, and that's what keeps everything kind of pristine.
Well, one of the best was about a year ago in April. There was these 2 ladies. They're out in the lake. One was from Quebec, and they seen this creature come up. It was up, the usual type of Ogopogo, just like it looks in City Park with the 2 coils or 3 coils and the head coming up. And they watched it, but they didn't have their cameras. That was a really good eyewitness sighting. It covered the front page of the paper. It was even like 2000. What was that? 15, here it is, right here in the Okanagan, alive and well.
And the sightings happen every year with Ogopogo. How many sightings a year, Andrew, are we seeing with this creature?
Oh, well, trying to remember. In the paper, there was a sighting a few years ago of there was geysers moving forward, I guess, towards the bridge from West Bank. And they had that on film, I believe. But there's way more sightings than get reported. Like for myself, mostly what I see is underwater. I don't hardly ever see the creature surface. There's a picture behind me where I was down the beach with a smaller Ogopogo, maybe 50 or 100 feet behind me that I could detect on the negative, but usually it just stays underwater, and probably for good reason, because if it attracted much attention, it would probably get attacked.
Well, let's get into it a little bit here, and let's start describing the Ogopogo here, because I have to admit, I'm not as familiar with it. I've been there. I've been on the waterfront. I've seen the statues. Heck, I started my radio career with a 6-week practicum at CKOV 6300 on the dial on the AM. That's how I got started in this business after graduating broadcasting school in Vancouver. So it's a town that is very, very close to me. And let's talk about the Ogopogo then. What is it?
Well, my best estimation, one of my pictures showed kind of a anvil-like object behind the head, a horned head. The closest match to that anvil is a Stephacanthus shark from 360 million years ago. So even another picture I took with my in-laws a couple of years ago, it had you could see the legs, kind of like appendages, and then it matched the Nothosaurus, which is an ancient dinosaur from about the same period, about 360 million years ago. So dinosaur or shark seems to be the origin of the species. It's like a parallel species to the dinosaur. It can fly. In some accounts, I got a book in my hand that's called Discovering the Catabosaurus. It's the same creature on the west coast as it is in Okanagan, and it states in there that the creature can grow wings. It's the same creature. I emailed these people. I said, they just described this Catabosaurus as being at least two different creatures, and I'm pretty sure it's all one creature.
And let's be honest here. Even though the Okanagan Lake and where you are is approximately 350 miles from the Pacific Ocean, the Okanagan Lake technically does filter into the Pacific Ocean through numerous rivers and streams and lakes, so it is possible for a Cadborosaurus that may be on the west coast of the Pacific Ocean to find its way up if it's, say, a breeding area or something along those lines.
Well, it's more than just that. I was talking to Ed Bosfield a few years ago, and Paul LeBlanc as well. They're both authors on the subject of the Catabosaurus. And they said, well, quite a few small lakes in southern BC have an Ogopogo in them. The connecting link, rather than just being the water, is actually the creature can fly. It's the only evidence I have of that is about 2009, about just towards dark, towards the southern part of West Kelowna, and there was what somebody thought was a kite being flown behind a boat. But there was no boat, and it wasn't a kite. It was actually the creature flying. And there's a pictograph down that beach, just a few hundred yards from the park, Pebble Beach Park, and it's about maybe 3 feet wide, and it has these huge wings. It's like these natives painted this thing hundreds of years ago, flying. It's a flying dinosaur, so it wouldn't need the water to get to any lake. It could just simply fly there.
So you were saying that you believe Ogopogo is a creature that can live underwater, yet fly in the sky. For a lot of people who listen to you say that, Andrew, they are going to question that and say, is this for real? Yeah,
it is. My own, another whole 100 or so yards from that pictograph, I was up there. There's a rock circle, and there was a little, kind of a bat-like creature. I had a picture of it. I looked at it and zoomed in on it, and you could see kind of, I don't know how to describe it, the wings, and I don't know how to describe the creature, more like caterpillar-like, but anyway, it was kind of like a metamorphosis, that it could go from being a lizard to being a flying creature. While we were there that day in September 2001, just trying to dig down and see if there's any charcoal in the rock circle, and there wasn't any, but outside the canopy of the fir tree, we could hear this buzzing sound. And then looking at this picture and zoomed in, it's not a bat. It doesn't match anything that I've ever seen before, and here it is with these gray wings. The creature at some point, if it can fly, has to go through some kind of metamorphosis to learn how to fly. And here it is just a couple of 100 yards from the pictograph that shows the flying creature.
I have to admit, out of all the years that I've known about the Ogopogo, this is absolutely the first time I have heard anybody say that it's actually growing wings and flying out of there. And do we know what other lakes that it might be stopping at on its way to the Pacific Ocean?
Well, I talked to Arlene Gall several years ago or more, and she said, well, there's sightings in Woods Lake and Kalamalka Lake, and they're, of course, connected to Okanagan Lake. They go through Vernon. And also Skaha Lake, just south of Penticton. So that was her experience. It isn't just Okanagan Lake; it's also other lakes.
Well, great. I've swam in Kalamalka Lake as well, so now you're in Skaha as well. So now you're freaking me out. Because there's a few things that I just don't do, and water is one of them, especially the ocean, because I have an absolute fear of sharks. And
me too.
And
I tried windsurfing, and I scared silly.
And, even if I'm in a lake or a swimming pool, I hear the Jaws theme song pick up, and I am out of there. It's just something that's been embedded in me since I was about 7 years old, when my sisters forced me to watch the movie Jaws back on our television that had the rabbit ear antennas that you had to move around in order to watch television back then. Boy, I'm dating myself now for our younger listeners.
Well, my brother-in-law said the same thing when he saw Jaws. He's just a young kid. He wouldn't even get in the bathtub.
That doesn't surprise me, and I'm pretty sure that anything around here, I know my audience in any of these chat rooms is going to start bugging me about my hatred and scare and my fear of gnomes as well. So I know that's going to start up, so I might as well get that started right now. I do have a question from Eric in the Spaced Out Radio chat room for you, Andrew.
Yes.
And his question is, could the flying version of this creature, in your opinion, maybe be tied to some of the Thunderbird sightings that have been seen around the province?
Oh, okay. Well, okay, that's another forte of mine. It's on a different kind of attack, though. Of course, you could call it Thunderbird, yes, but the actual Thunderbird actually relates to the phoenix. So the native legend of a Thunderbird is more related to the creature that would fly to the sun. Of course, this is another area that's totally different, but it's also an area I research quite a bit. And so this is more like way out in space and creatures. These are heavenly creatures. Also, though, there is a parallel. The creature could be very well this Ogopogo, just the same, because a very similar thing. It can fly. How do you know which one's which? That's what I'm saying.
What about the fact that there's a lot of people who have seen pterodactyls come way up the west coast, and a lot of pterodactyl sightings are down in Texas and along the Mexico border, right around the Rio Grande area, and it's been noted actually north of where I am in the Caribou. It's been noted that a couple 100 kilometers north, First Nations people actually warn their people, especially the children, in the rural areas, that there has been pterodactyls in there that actually will take people. Could it be a pterodactyl that we're dealing with?
It's more like a amphibian kind of dinosaur shark that can also fly than a pterodactyl. It has that ability. I was just just outside of Redding just a year ago with a family reunion, and on our way to the airport, there's a statue by Eureka, I believe it is, and it's just like the same creature. It's dinosaur-like Ogopogo with wings, and it's right there at the side of the road. It's good 20 feet long, made out of steel, and there it is, flying Ogopogo.
I want to ask you about the First Nations, because here in British Columbia, the First Nations are very, very entrenched with mystic creatures and mythical creatures. Like I said, the pterodactyl up north in northern British Columbia. We have Bigfoot running around the mountains, or what they call Sasquatch, from, all over the province. There's sightings.
It was more than that. This creature, there was last year, or a year before, there was these footprints found in the snow in East Kelowna, in the hills of East Kelowna, and they had 3 toes. The only creature with 3 toes is a dinosaur. And these prints were like more than a foot long. And there's no moose that has a print that big, and it even doesn't match any bear print. And this was discovered in the snow. And somebody suggests, they could be some made by toy dinosaur plastic toys. But my thought is it's actually the creature. It can actually walk on land.
Did anybody follow those tracks that were found in the snow?
They didn't. It wasn't stated. It was on Castanet. You might be able to get it just by Googling it. They didn't say they found an end of the footprints. The fellow just was intrigued and tried to match them to anything he could find on the internet, and there wasn't a single moose or bear or anything that would match those footprints. Like I said, there were 3 toes. The only thing with 3 toes is a dinosaur.
That is amazing, because that area, it really has a lot of secrets, doesn't it? I mean, from the gold rush to Ogopogo to Bigfoot to any other sort of cryptids that are kind of hiding in the area. I know in the southern part near Penticton, there is a special place that I have heard of from people who go there, which they call UFO Alley. We have a lot of alien and UFO sightings in the Kelowna area. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but I've had people actually from the area talk to me about that. It really is an active place for everything that is going on. Why do you think that is?
Oh, okay. Well, I'm a little bit involved with the astronomy group, and a few years ago, some fellow from the science, radio science place, they built what was called Stonehenge, Penhedge, I guess it's called. And what it is kind of like a sun clock? What's that called? Sundial. Anyway, so he's able to line up the rocks with the vernal equinox and the solstice, and say the winter solstice coming up, they'll have some special event and see if they can line up the sun with the exact north-south, and it's called Penhenge, and it's just like Stonehenge. They're just sort of just lining up the rocks with the sun and the stars. So there is kind of a ongoing astronomy interest in the Penticton area, partly because of the Dominion Radio Observatory. It's just a very energetic area.
I know this because about a month ago I had a lady on named Karina Sables, who lives in, I believe, what's the next little town right outside of Kelowna if you head towards Vernon? It's passing my...
Lake Country.
In the Lake Country area. She actually, her and her entire family have dealt with alien abduction from that area. And a gentleman I have on the first Friday of every month, his name is R. Keith Andrews. He actually is an ET contactee specialist that we use on this show, and he's from Kelowna as well. So I know there's things happening there.
Well, I was visiting with a fellow with a telescope up in Glen Rosa, which is not from where I live, years ago, and he had a 10-inch LX200, and we start talking, and he said, well, one time at night he was looking down towards Okanagan Lake, and he saw what he thought was described in Ezekiel, the wheels within wheels. I don't know anything about it. I'd never seen such a thing, but it is in the Bible in Ezekiel. But the other part was this fellow, this old fellow, he's probably passed away by now. He said he's seen this thing over Okanagan Lake. So I don't know any more than that. But that was one time I did hear something like what you're talking about just now.
Do you believe that there's just something anomalously special about the Kelowna, West Bank, Penticton area that attracts all of these types of cryptids and extraterrestrial and UFO sightings to the area? Maybe it's the ley lines, maybe it's the water, maybe it's just the atmosphere. What do you think it is?
Well, I would differentiate. I wouldn't say there's anything UFO really about this place. I mean, there was something in the paper about a year ago, something kind of a fuzzy object in the sky, and they took a picture of it. I don't know what to make of that. I have no idea. The only thing I do know about is when I take pictures of this creature in the lake. I do know what I got on film because, you can look at the negatives, you can zoom in more and more detail when you enlarge the pictures. I got 2 foot by 3 foot poster pictures of a lot of these pictures I've taken on film, so I know what I have. Whereas the UFO type of stuff, I really don't have any idea about. I don't know anything about UFOs. So it does come up, in the paper here and there, some things, some sightings, and even pictures. But I really don't know much about that area. The only thing I do know is this creature in the lake is, at least got a population where it can continue into the future. So there's quite a few Ogopogos in the lake.
You mentioned that you believe there's a few Ogopogos in the lake. That would sense that there is still a breeding population here. And we're going to get into the breeding here momentarily. But first I want to ask you, if you could explain to people, Andrew, what this creature apparently looks like. Tell us the size, the features.
Well, my first picture was just off an underwater ledge back about 2009, and I was looking at the picture in about June, July, and scanning in the negative, and so that what looked like a log, and it looked like this kind of like a large rock beside the log. When I looked at, and I had a few pictures from different angles. Well, when I looked close, this rock was it wasn't a rock, it was a flipper, and at one angle it looked different, and the other angle had a different shadow, and then I looked closer towards the head, and what I thought was an eye wasn't the eye. And then I could see the tongue sticking out in the mouth line, and then I saw the eye just where you expect on any kind of lizard or crocodile. And there was the most of the features were identifiable in the negative. So about 20 feet long, tongue sticking out. I don't know what to say, but it was a few years after that, I went down the beach with my brother-in-law. I said, we'll go down to this point and come back. Well, I was way behind, so he went down to the point and came back. So I was still paddling, so I thought, well, I'll keep going. And so I went over the ledge, and I did a U-turn, and on my way back, I could see something reddish-orange under my kayak, about the same size, about 20 feet long and about a foot wide, and it was just underneath. So I thought, well, I could take a picture, but water was a bit stirred up. But I decided to keep going. So I came back about a week or two later, and I looked at the underwater ledge, and there was kind of a shadow. So I came back a year later and scanned it with a video camera on a stick underwater underneath my kayak, and I got a picture of a cave. And inside the cave, you can just make out kind of like an alligator-like head peeping out. You can see the glint from the sun in the eye of the creature inside the cave.
And let's get into your stories. I want to get more into your stories and when we start off hour number 2. How long is this creature? Is it scaly? Is it something that, would be smooth like a shark or a snake, or is it scaly like an alligator? What is your opinion of it?
Well, it depends. There was an independent, years ago, we had some of our friends from the States came up, and about July 4th, I guess, we went down to a wharf of one of our friends, the Goods, down in Summerland. And so we just get there to this wharf, and they didn't use it very much. But anyway, near the shore, there was this thing rolling over, and we're just docking at the dock with our kayaks. There's about 4 or 5 kayaks, and we're all just getting out to have our lunch. And we watched for a good 30 seconds or more. It was like a rolling scales. I thought it was a rolling carpet, and green in color, and then a black line, like the end of the carpet. And so we get out there, and we have our lunch on a little raft-like thing there, and I said, we'll have a look, see if there's a carpet under there. And they went swimming, and it was only like maybe 5 or 6 feet of water, and there was no carpet. There was nothing there. And that matches some of the descriptions in this book I just been reading, the Discovering the Cadbosaurus, published last year in 2015. And some of the descriptions are kind of like you say, threaded, or kind of like a a scaly surface, and green in color. It matches pretty closely to what I saw, and it was kind of in a diagram in the book, and quite a few of the sightings had the same kind of a thing. Years ago, the Proudfoots lived off of near where the cove is now in West Bank, out about maybe a couple hundred yards into the lake, and they seen this green thing surface too. Very, very similar. To my mind, it's all one creature. Some of the creatures are very large. I haven't, other than this rolling carpet-like experience, I haven't seen anything near as large. But some of the descriptions in this book, Discovering Catasaurus, show the creature being 5 feet or more in width. Well, that would be about the width of what I saw, like the rolling carpet near Summerland years ago.
So you've been up close and personal with this.
Yeah, well, it was like 20 feet away. That's, yeah, that's from the surface. That's about as well. There was another time I was coming down the road from where I live in the Point community towards the lake, and there's a little beach. It's called Willow Beach, and there's willow trees there. And anyway, it's a major beach in the summer. But this was January, and I was looking straight out into the lake. A couple hundred. About 300 feet or so, and there's this dome-like thing came up about, maybe 2 feet wide, black, about maybe 2 inches up, and then down in about 3 or 4 seconds. I don't know if I could actually see anything or not, but it came up and then down. And so I mentioned it to fisheries. I don't know what they did with the information, but it was a little bit unnerving. I really wasn't too eager to get in the water after seeing that thing.
Yet there are literally, especially from spring until fall when it starts to get cold, there are literally thousands of people, especially in summertime, on boats, on sailboats, speedboats, belly boats, fishing boats, jet skis, swimming all through the lake, everywhere around. And this is a deep lake. Like, how deep is this lake?
Well, off of Peachland, where a lot of the sightings are towards Rattlesnake Island, it's 650 feet deep. It is fairly deep. North of the bridge, it's 800 feet deep.
And basically what it is, for people who don't know, Okanagan, like I said in the intro, the lake was formed by melting glaciers. So you're looking at a cavernous mountain that has just had the snow melt. Am I correct by that, Andrew?
Yes. There have been many glaciations over the millions of years, yes. Yeah. Well, the other part, I was at the Beachland, tourist center, and they have these 2 kiosks, and you just put the earphones on your head and watch the video. It's about 15 minutes long, and they show these scuba divers, and they're investigating these holes in the bottom of the lake, good 100 feet or more down. Like this creature makes holes in the bottom of the lake. Even one of my pictures shows a picture of the Ogopogo looking outside of a cave, just maybe 14 feet underwater. But this cave isn't made out of rock. It's just made out of ordinary rock. Soft sand and such on the bottom of the lake. And here is the head sticking out. And how does that happen? It has to be able to dig its way in, and then stick its head out. And so these scuba divers, they're investigating these holes in the bottom of the lake, 100 feet down or more, and the creature seems to be able to embed itself in the lake bottom.
Saber is asking in the Space Out Radio chat room, how much of the lake, to your knowledge, has actually been explored?
Well, I've had a few, maps of showing the depth of the lake, and you can tell by the lines and such, the contours of the bottom. Towards the south of Summerland, the lake is only maybe 100 or 200 feet deep. North of Summerland, the Peachland area, it's 650 feet deep. Towards the lake bridge, it's about 350 feet deep. And then north of the bridge is 800 some feet deep. lots of people scuba dive. There was one fellow that was scuba diving years ago. I asked a friend of ours, he was taking scuba lessons. He said, well, this guy was known for taking a lot of risks. Well, what he did this one time, he said to his buddy he's going to have a look down and at something, and he dove down, and they found his body, and his body there's a big bruise on his head. And this fellow had, died, drowned. But how do you get a bruise underwater? You can't hit, unless something hits you, you're not going to get a bruise. So that was unusual. I mean, sure, this fellow was noted for taking risks and stuff, but anyway, the autopsy showed a bruise on his head.
A lot of people may say that hearing a story like that about somebody getting hurt, maybe they were hit by a boat, or maybe they were hit by a paddle oar, maybe they got disoriented and, got caught in one of these underground caves and tried to swim up and cracked his head. I mean, there's logical explanation for something along those lines. What makes it different that it might have been the Ogopogo swimming by?
Well, the circumstances of the story, this fellow had told his friend that he was going to go dive down further, and he'd meet his friend up on the surface. Well, in the time that passed, his friend had gone down further, and I don't think there were any boats in between time. And if there were no boats, well, what else could do the damage?
True enough. So, in your opinion, then, has Ogopogo been known as an aggressive type creature? Or is it, because of the amount of people that are on the lake on a daily basis, especially in summertime, where it's getting to 100, 110 degrees Fahrenheit, is this something that is a docile creature until it's maybe had a close call with a speedboat, or is being invaded by humans who are scuba diving underneath and maybe checking out the caves?
Yeah, I don't know. The pictures look alligator-like. The one thing I did see, a young one, is like a lizard, like a salamander, maybe 14 inches long. And of course, being young, it was timid and ran away really fast. I saw it twice in about September 2001. Kind of orange color. Didn't match any salamander in any of the books I looked at. And it was kind of a stubby tail. And it was very timid. Of course, it's young. Of course, anything that's young is timid, but it just struck me that the creature had a very timid kind of a nature. I'm not sure if the adults are, but that's what I'd observed of the young one.
Do you think that it tries to stay out of the eyes of people, that it's just trying to live its life peacefully? Is it seen near the wharfs of Kelowna or Penticton, which are the two most populous cities on Okanagan Lake?
Well, as a few years ago, we have a wharf here, the CNR wharf in West Bank. It's all built up now. But a couple of years ago, I took a picture underwater with my underwater camera just underneath the pilings where they have like a dive-off bench. Anyway, looked at the pictures, and I could see this white kind of a thing in the bottom corner of the picture. So I zoomed in, and I got a big, more than 2 foot by 3 foot picture of it. This white thing looked like the head of some kind of dinosaur or alligator type thing, and you can make out the eye, the kind of nostrils, and maybe like an ear behind the eye, like a lizard would have, kind of orange-like. And I'm all more or less white in color. And I was looking at a picture of Ogopogo from a black and white taken in 1937, very like what this lady from Quebec and the local lady saw in April last year. The three or four humps, but the head was white. And then I was looking at this underwater picture underneath the pilings, and the head is white. You can't see anything else but the white head. And then there was a picture taken near the same time, kind of red like what I was describing when I was underneath my kayak, way out in the lake, and it looked like it was next to a white buoy, but it wasn't a white buoy. The head was white. So the connection is the white head. The creature that's in the statue near Redding, Eureka, the same thing. The head is white.
So you're basically compiling evidence from all over where everybody is having these sightings, and you're trying to put like these puzzle pieces together as to what the monster in Okanagan Lake could be.
Exactly.
What do other people think of your theories?
Well, I don't know. I was talking to one of my friends a while back about my research, and he kind of laughed a little bit. He said he wouldn't believe what I have, just knowing me. He's as a good friend. He just thought I would be a bit off on a tangent. That was just his personal opinion. He's a good friend of mine, but he didn't really believe much in Ogopogo.
Okay, talking about what is not believed. A lot of people believe that we're talking about a freshwater eel or maybe one of the great white sturgeon that are around the areas. They're all through the Fraser River. They're all through the Columbia River that goes from British Columbia straight through down to the Oregon-Washington border. Are we sure that we're not looking at sturgeon?
Yes, there's never been a sturgeon found in Okanagan Lake. There was a story that a fellow was capturing sturgeon by Mission Creek back in the 30s. And so my uncle Jeff Tozer and his friend Andy Aikman went canoeing up there. And so they were right there at this place where the sturgeon so supposedly were found, and they were fishing for kokanee. And near the mouth of the creek, Mission Creek, there's a lot of seagulls, and there today. That's where they congregate. Anyway, as they were there watching, the seagulls started flying straight up, and then right up from the lake came a long neck, more than 12 feet up, and grabbed the seagull in midair and down again. So there was a story that this neighbor had been capturing sturgeon, but really what was really there was not a sturgeon. A sturgeon can't go up 14 feet in the air and grab a seagull.
No, definitely, and sturgeon are bottom feeders. They're not jumping up to the surface to try and grab a bird or anything that's kind of by. They're more like a bottom feeder type fish. If it's on the bottom, sturgeon don't have teeth, especially the ones in British Columbia.
This matches the description from the Cabosaurus that I also have here. When I was talking to Paul LeBlanc on the phone a few years ago, he's a PhD from UBC, retired. I don't know how he is right now. His online Facebook wasn't being followed, so I don't know. But anyway, basically, he said the creature often was seen coming out of the water and eating seagulls. Same thing.
Let's talk about the cave system here for a second as we step away from the creature and focus on the lake. Okanagan Lake is said to be absolutely filtered and flowing with underground caves that go underneath the mountains and maybe connect to different waterways, water areas. There is a number of lakes almost in a straight line from Skaha to Kalamalka Lake all the way up into the Kamloops area where it gets into the canyon where the Thompson River comes through. How connected are these waterways under the ground as far as you know?
Oh, no, I don't think they're really connected. In that video in Peachland, the tourist center, the old schoolhouse, they show it. They're trying to swim up against the current in an large underground cave. I'm not sure how far they go in the video, but that is an example of underwater river-like thing. But I don't think there's any interconnection. I mean, anything underwater can't go much more than a couple hundred yards, I'm pretty sure. So to be connected to different lakes and stuff I don't really buy that. It's pretty much just it's a simple lake.
So do you feel how do you say then when the Ogopogo has apparently been spotted in Skaha as well as Kalamalka Lake, which is another lake that is absolutely massive as well. How would you describe how it's getting there? Is this where we go back to the flight issue again, or are they swimming underneath the areas that are blocked off by land.
Yeah, more likely flying, but it could already have been in there and just breed there. That this is the thought is the creature's already there. I don't know how to describe it, but when I was talking to Arlene Gall years ago, she says there are reports of Ogopogos, not just in Okanagan Lake, but also Wood Lake and Kalamalka and Skaha. So I don't know anything more than that. There was a few people that drowned in Skaha Lake near the canal. I don't know if they said there's problems with the undertow, and similarly with the Kamalka Lake, there's problem with undertow, but I don't know, there has been sightings that Arlene told me of, but I really don't know much more than that. Obviously, if the creature can fly, if it flew at night, you probably wouldn't even see it.
Is the creature known more as being nocturnal, or is it seen quite a bit in daytime?
Boy, yeah, good question. Like I say, the one fellow had a picture of it, I believe, or saw it flying near Goats Peak, or what do you call it, south of Pebble Beach, near dark. So that would kind of give you an idea. Maybe it's nocturnal. And of course, if you see something, you're not going to see something in the dark. Other times, there was one time I was changing sprinklers across the creek on the horse farm, and it was dark about 10 o'clock at night, and I'm heading out and going to go across the creek and change the sprinklers, and I heard this large sound of like a toad and it just scared the wits out of me. It was just way too loud to be actually from a frog. So, I didn't go across the creek that night to change the sprinklers. It was already dark anyhow, so I wasn't exactly the bravest person, but, that could be part of the picture where it's not seen feeding on creatures that during the day. It could do a lot of its hunting at night where it's not seen.
Do we know what it's feeding on?
Well, there was one time I asked my daughter to go in the creek towards the other side, and it's about maybe 2 feet deep. And so I saw this chewed up green leaf float out from the bottom of the creek, from about 18 inches or 2 feet deep. And I asked my daughter to come back to where I was and come back to me, but chewed up green leaves don't float out from the bottom of a creek. It just doesn't make any sense. I took pictures there, and I could make out, you can even see it on my private page, these rock-like heads, at least two of them, one like a rock with eyeballs, eye sockets, and another like a root with eye socket, or kind of dinosaur-like looking, and, right there. And so the thought of it being a vegetarian, it comes to mind. It may just eat green leaves. I mean, that was what floated up from the creek, was a chewed up green leaf. And that doesn't just happen.
Has there been any body parts of fish in there? Because there is a sockeye salmon run. There is a large trout run of rainbow, kokanee, brown, lake trout, real big lunkers.
Yeah, well, there is. I don't know how big, but we get trout in the spring, so the water is usually runoff water, so it's kind of gray, kind of muddy, brownish color, I guess you call it. And so there's lots of trout come up here in the spring, and then in the fall, right now, we have the kokanee, and they come up the creek. And we had a pretty good run of kokanee this year, but it's usually less and less every year, just as different pollution and stuff has happened. But there's some fair-sized kokanee come up. There was a good, 12-inch or more kokanee I saw just today, a fairly large one, but but that's is not large. You're only talking not very much more than a foot even for a trout.
Come up to where I am. Lots of big kokanee up here. Lots of big kokanee. That's all I could say. Doors open. Come fishing with me.
Yes. I went fishing towards Falkland one time with the Talbots, and I caught my first trout. That's kind of neat.
Fishing everywhere in this province. That's what I love about it. Just so people know, so we were talking about sturgeon. There is a law in British Columbia that all eagles and all sturgeon are protective species, and if you are caught killing one of those, especially the sturgeon, it is an automatic $1 million fine and 10 years minimum in jail for poaching. So it is a very protected species in this area, which is good to know. Gloria has a question in the SOR Space Travelers room. Is it possible that the Ogopogo could be a giant sea snake?
I don't think so. I mean, I always went down the beach, the same beach, years ago, wading in the water with the museum fellow. This is some years ago, and there was a rattlesnake, and it sort of lifted up its head, good 18 inches up, and hissed at me. So I stopped. I had rubber boots on, so I thought it was pretty safe. But anyway, the snake went off into the water. So my thought is that's just a rattlesnake. I mean, it was the same places where I saw the Ogopogo, but my thought of what I saw, unless rattlesnakes can't swim in water, then it was just a rattlesnake. There's a difference. This creature, when I saw a young one, is like a salamander, was, like I say, more like a red or orange salamander than it was any kind of snake.
On that note, we're going to hop out for our first break of the night. Andrew Bennett is our guest. sunnyokanagan.com is the website. We'll be right back after this.
Looking for news beyond the mainstream news? Head to spacedoutradio.com and check out the SOR Spacewire. This is Spaced Out Radio's Eric Markham, news director for the SOR Spacewire. Daily, I will bring you intriguing stories and outlandish reports from what's going on around the world. UFO sightings, paranormal activity, conspiracies, alternative health, and so much more. And if you have news, email me at news@spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there. I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com.
Greetings and salutations, space travelers, from the Chronicles of the Unknown team.
What is Chronicles of the Unknown? I keep hearing about this thing.
It's a new paranormal reality TV show based right here in beautiful British Columbia, Canada. Follow our team as we uncover claims of activity on the Caribou Gold Rush Trail. You can also follow us here every third Monday, where two members of our team will be available to answer your questions.
Have you ever wondered about those weird and strange creatures people have reported throughout history? Do you wonder if those stories are real? Me too, and that's why I started Cryptopia.us. Hey, this is Rob Morphy, crypto historian. Join me once a month on Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott, where we will get into the odd and bizarre reports, from the Dover Demon to hairy hominids and everything in between. I will break down what people like you and me are seeing at spacedoutradio.com.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
From British Columbia to Northern California, Pacific North Weird has Cascadia covered. Check out our feature videos at spacedoutradio.com, where I, Vincent Zunza, and my super sleuth partner Alexandra Sullivan track down the weird and strange stories from around the Pacific Northwest. From Bigfoot to Mel's Hole and everything in between. This is what makes life exciting. So why report the normal when we can report the Pacific North Weird right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Oh, there's only one way to rock. Loud and proud. In high definition. Radio 702 rocks. Las Vegas.
Have you ever had an extraterrestrial experience? One you just couldn't explain? Well, maybe I can help. Hello, I am Samantha Mullet. On the second Tuesday of each month, I will join Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio to bring a human aspect to ET contact. It's something I've lived with my entire life, and I'd love to help you understand. Let's share our experiences. The ET Experience, the second Tuesday of each month, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Hi there, this is Jolene with Revealette Reiki and Readings, and I want you to relax. Let me help you chill out and get in touch with your body, mind, and soul. In this busy world, sometimes we need to let go, and this is where I can help. Visit my website, revealetteR&R.wix.com/Revealette
Every Saturday and Sunday night, as Dave Scott wanders aimlessly in the wilderness. You can come hang out with me, James Tyson, in Spaced Out Weekend. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I'll take you along as we talk with some of the best experts in their fields. SpacedOutRadio.com is the place to find us. So sit down, relax, put your feet up. Enjoy the topics like the paranormal, supernatural, intuitiveness, and so much more. Hope to see you there.
Hi there, this is your psychic medium, Joanna, and I would love it if you would join us every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. With host James Tyson, we'll bring you personal psychic messages on two mediums and a large. Questions about love, life, career changes. We would love it if you would come and join us live. Call in and listen in for the experience. Allow us to open the doors to your other side. Two mediums and a large, heard only on Spaced Out Weekend at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
Do you have a topic or a guest that you'd like to hear on Spaced Out Radio? Let us know at spacedoutradio.com, where you can sign up to become a Space Traveler member today. Or you can find us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on our Facebook page, Spaced Out Radio Show. Welcome back to the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. If you're an SOR Space Traveler, Bill Cardwell has set the password. Ophidian is your password. Ophidian is the one you use. If you're an SOR Space Traveler, do us a favor, use the password very wisely. We don't want that thing getting out of hand. Tomorrow night on the show, we round out the week with Sam Baltrusis. The author will talk about the most haunted crime scenes in America. It's going to be a great show, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time, right here on the mighty SOR, as another week finishes off on a very strong note. Remember, if you're listening in on Revolution Radio is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Do us a favor, donate today. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show, and our website is spacedoutradio.com. You can also find us on TuneIn. You can listen to us on iTunes. We're everywhere now. and we love being there. Don't forget to sign up for the SOR Space Travelers Club as well. It is only $5 a month. With that, your name gets put into monthly prize draws. The next prize draw will be next Friday, the 30th, during the SOR Round Table. I love giving stuff away, so make sure you sign up today. Tonight we are talking with Andrew Bennett. His website, sunnyokanagan.com. We are talking about the famous and infamous Ogopogo of Okanagan Lake. We bring Andrew back in. Andrew, welcome back.
Hello, yes.
During the break, I asked you a pretty good question, and I had to cut your answer off because I wanted to get it on the air. Up until you mentioned it in the last hour, I had no idea that there was a theory out there that Ogopogo could fly. That seems a little odd to me, but I would love it if you could explain the history as to why you think that.
Well, there was a book I was reading a few years ago on lake monsters. I wish I could remember the title. Anyway, had a chapter on flying lake monsters. There's a number of accounts in the western states, and one was from Lake Elizabeth in California, Southern California, back about 1860 or so, and the reports of this creature would come out of the lake and eat the cattle. And this creature was huge. And then a little later there was a report that this creature tried to fly towards the east and sort of sat down in Arizona and run out of energy, and the wingspan was maybe 60 or more feet. They tried to preserve it for science, but there were no refrigeration back then, and then that's where the story ends. There was a good story from Lake Chelan back about 1892. You can see it on the internet. Just type in Ogopogo and Lake Chelan. And there was these three men waiting out in the lake, and one of them got bit on the ankle by this creature. He yelled out for help, and his two friends pulled him to shore, and behind this friend of theirs was this alligator-like creature with his mouth clamped around his ankle. They couldn't get his mouth open, so they started to fire. Well, this creature had ribbed wings between his front flippers and his back flippers. So the creature went up in the air with their friend and down in the water. You know, that is a pretty, you can't get more descriptive than that. And that was 1892. I don't know if there's any accounts after that for the western states, but there are a few stories of flying monsters in the 1850s, 1860s in the western states.
Why do you think these types of stories just kind of die off if they were very prevalent in the 1800s throughout North America, and today we just don't seem to believe any of them?
Well, there's a certain amount of skepticism. It's, I don't know, brought on by TV or the internet, I'm not sure what, but lots of people think everything can be debunked and don't believe hardly anything they hear, let alone what they see. So, I don't know, it just comes as a territory. And the other part is, too, the creature may not want to be seen. It might realize there's a danger, you know, and nowadays with motorboats and airplanes and cars, maybe the creature is smart enough to realize that it needs to keep undercover if it wants to survive.
Karen has a question in the Spaced Out Radio chat room. She is asking, have you ever sat down and talked with local First Nations tribes to talk about the Ogopogo and the legends around it?
Oh, yes. There's a fellow I've talked to quite a bit, Jordan Cobble. Really nice fellow from the First Nations Museum. I've talked to him quite a bit about Ogopogo. His thought was, you know, it's hard to help, you know, say to bring it up to the city or the regional district. Maybe only 10% actually believe the creature is there because they've never seen it. And these are people responsible for tourism and everything else. So it's a real hard sell. But, you know, we were up, way up Goats Peak and had a look at one of these crevices where the creature has been recorded in my film. And so he's been with me. He had a good he tried to really heave on this log-like thing, but the pictures are in film. You can't doctor film. And he was quite pleased. We had a good hike, and he's very positive about it, and he says that that's our heritage. He believes because of his heritage. Stories handed down for many centuries. It's part of his history. I said, well, I'll take you for a ride on the kayak, and we'll have a look at it, the creature in the lake. And he says, no. On land, he's not as so afraid, but in the water, that's the creature's forte is a lake, and he wouldn't go there. But he's a really nice fellow, and he's all for supporting the livelihood of the Ogopogo. But he has a bit of respect for the creature in the lake.
So what is the First Nations thought of what Ogopogo is? Is it similar to what you think, or is it different?
Oh, similar. There was one pictograph we're talking about a year ago in Wild Horse Canyon, just opposite Rattlesnake Island on the east side of the lake, and he said that's Ogopogo, even before I could get the word out. And I saw the actual picture of it a few years ago in the museum. It doesn't look like a horse, and somebody said, oh, it was a horse-drawn kind of a travois, I guess they call it, where it's dragging a post behind along a trail, but behind a horse. But it didn't look like a horse, and it looks more like that. The pictures of the footprints in the eastern hills of Kelowna in the snow. The creature, I believe, can walk on land. And this pictograph was not of a horse. It didn't look like anything that I've ever seen. And he correctly said the same thing. He says, we believe that pictograph in Wild Horse Canyon is really the Ogopogo. And in that canyon, it's kind of a water-filled kind of a gulch, and the creature would be very at home anyway.
Karen is asking in the Space Out Radio chat room, we all know about the Loch Ness Monster over in Europe, Great Britain to be more exact. Do you believe that there is similarities between what the Loch Ness Monster is and what Ogopogo is?
Oh, yeah, I think so. I've read a little bit about Loch Ness. I'm not sure I really understand. The parallel between the Cadbosaurus on the west coast is definitely there. And, of course, to link the same thing for Loch Ness is way far away. However, it is the same ocean. I mean, from Atlantic to Pacific, it's the same ocean. It wouldn't be too far-fetched to actually be the same creature. I just don't have any experience with the Loch Ness. I've seen all the stuff on the news, but different articles in the National Geographic or whatever it has been in. I don't know, but I've seen some of those, but I really don't know anything about the Loch Ness. So even though that creature is very well known, I wouldn't be able to say it. It sounds similar, but I really can't say. I've never been to England. I don't know.
I have actually swam in 2 lakes that have sea monsters. I've swam in Okanagan Lake. I've swam on Vancouver Island, where in Cameron Lake, in between Parksville and Port Alberni, there is a lake there that is said to have a sea serpent type monster as well in it. Do you see similarities because we are on the West Coast? You mentioned the Cadborosaurus. Do you think all of these are in relation to what Caddy may be?
Yes, for sure. There was an email from a fellow several years ago. He saw this about 10-foot-long silver-like creature near Comox, or Cowichan, I guess it was. Anyways, so he asked me what did I think, and I thought, well, it could be the same creature. Kind of silvery, at least 10 feet long, and is what he described it. And so I was, like I say, I've got the book. I'm not sure if they're going to print some more copies, but Discovering Cadbosaurus, and there's a thorough research, and it's recorded all down the coast, from all the way from San Diego all the way up to Alaska, over since the 1800s. It's really well researched, and like I say, it's Paul LeBlanc is a PhD from UBC. He really knows what he's talking about. He's been doing this most of his life.
And approximately how many sightings are reported that you track annually on this creature?
Oh, well, it's hard to say. Like I say, there was a really good sighting last April, a year ago. These two ladies on the lake, they saw exactly what that picture in 1937 showed, about 4 more humps and the tail and the head, and pretty clear as much as the black and white from 1937 can be. I thought that's exactly what these ladies described. A lot of people are afraid to come forward. It was said on Castanet, though, about a month or two ago, that they get hundreds of sightings reported every year, and they don't post them on their webpage, but they did mention to the public that they get 100 reported sightings to their website every year. So that's a good gauge to go by. Is lots of people are seeing the creature, though we may not read about it, but the reports keep coming in.
There's been a lot of research from scientists to television shows on Okanagan Lake. And, I remember Josh Gates bringing his show there a couple of years ago, and they did a lot of research in both daytime and nighttime. Have you ever followed up with any of these film crews in regards to their research, or how often that is happening?
Well, we had a crew out a few years ago, a French channel. They interviewed me at Pebble Beach Park. There's been a few crews I haven't heard of. They've come and gone before I even heard of them, but I don't know. I don't, necessarily get contacted by everybody, but there's film crews going through the Okanagan every year. They will ask certain people and then just pass on. I don't know. There was a film crew from Japan years ago. They're very serious, but I don't know. A lot of that interest seems to have tapered out. I don't know. Like I say, I did give an interview to a Quebec film company a couple of years ago, maybe 4 years ago now, and they did a story on what was it called? Lake monsters and such all through Canada. CM&J Productions, too, it's called now. It was a series on monsters, and a lot of these stories from across Canada just match the Ogopogo. The creature has wings and goes through the water very much the same. Lake Champlain, I believe, is one lake they have back in the eastern states, and the stories are very similar to Ogopogo.
That would tell me that there is a breeding population for these creatures. I realize because it's a cryptid, we don't have much information on it. But do you think people are sighting in Okanagan Lake one creature, or do you think there is numerous creatures in that lake?
Oh, there's lots of creatures. One of the interesting things is the picture took of this creature in the crevice, and this egg about maybe half an inch or an inch high, kind of yellow-like, with the creature coming out the top of the egg. I've been to the Drumheller Tyrol Museum. I showed my research to the people there, and they just said, well, to prove it to science, you have to have a body. Well, if you actually have a body, you might get in trouble, because then you actually got you, because you killed the thing, and now you got the body, and you're proving it. So anyway, but the picture of the creature, an egg, like hatching. This is just too real to I'm not sure why local science people don't take interest, but it just seems to me that if the creature's laying eggs, obviously it's breeding, and they're live and well in Okanagan Lake and on the land. It's fairly obvious. I mean, if you have several pictures of the creature, different creatures, well, there's going to be several times more of that in the lake. So then you have a population, upwards of 50. You need a population of about 50 to keep a genetic species going. Well, there easily has to be more than 50 Ogopogos in the lake.
And I understand that, and I can appreciate that, but are you surprised then that there's never been a body wash up on shore?
Well, there was. Back over on the 1900s, they did find a body and described it. That matches a lot of the sightings. It said it had two tusk-like teeth. It had kind of like a manatee kind of head, or I don't know. They just described it very much like the actual sightings. It had kind of like a hair or like a mane on a horse type of hair on the body, and that matches the sightings of the Cabosaurus on the west coast as well. It was kind of a gray, dark gray kind of a color, and that matches a lot of the pictures I have of the creature in the lake bottom, just to maybe 12 feet down. The creature is often the same color as a lake, like a chameleon. It changes its color, kind of a dark gray. It had kind of like talons, but they weren't like worn talons, but they like a talons like a bird. So then you have the relationship from dinosaur to bird. It's kind of there also in that the creature can fly. And this was all described in the carcass they saw in the early 1900s. They took the tusks but the tusks were lost as time went on, and so there was a bone of the creature towards Vernon, the north end of the lake, and it was put in the museum, but it was lost, and so it was disappeared too. So both the tusks and the bone, and maybe 10 feet long, that they found in the lake, they've all disappeared. So, but they did have a sighting of a dead carcass, and this is what they described. It matches a lot of the records. The talons, I don't know, and the tusk. There are some records. Some of my pictures show a tusk, kind of a yellow kind of a tusk, and so it's all there. But that's the last anybody's seen the body.
You mentioned that a lot of these bodies have gone missing. There's also, if we want to get a little conspiratorial here for a second, I know in the United States there's a lot of belief that when it comes to Bigfoot, that a lot of the bodies have been found, and there has been bodies in the Smithsonian. However, there's a reason why the government in the U.S. doesn't want the fact of this creature being proven to come out in the public eye. Do you think that could be something around what is happening with the Ogopogo as well?
It may. I mean, I talked to a fellow from one of the museums back in New York when I first made my discovery, and I talked to him at length, but I'm not sure what came of it. I never heard from him again. I wasn't able to find any emails to talk to him or anything again. So the thought is like I say, this book, Discovering Cabosaurus, done by Paul LeBlanc, the PhD from UBC, is well researched. But I kind of suspect in a lot of academic circles they may be trying to keep things secret. I can't believe that what I've discovered and has gone unnoticed. I mean, I talked to fisheries many times. They wouldn't not notice the pictures. I mean, you can't deny film. You can't doctor a film, and so I'm sure that they have a communication between them. But like I say, I've not been able to talk to anybody since then in government. So I don't even know, my thought is they probably won't share it with the public. So the best chance anybody has to see what's actually researched is just simply my website. Because I'm pretty sure, anything that they discover, they won't even tell anybody about. So, might as well go to my webpage and see for yourself.
Why do you think they want to keep it quiet? If the creature did exist, we could protect it with laws, much like the sturgeon or eagles are protected in the province of British Columbia. It wouldn't have any issues whatsoever. Maybe the boat traffic might be, cut down a little bit on where power boats could go. But what do you think the purpose is if they know about it, not bringing it out to the public eye? Because obviously the public would support this creature being protected as an endangered species.
Well, there's also a concern too. Like as much as I have faith in government, they may also try to destroy the creature before anybody takes notice, and then once it's gone, I wouldn't think they would actually do that. But that's one thought. It's been raised before that they may take things in their hands. I don't know that they would do that. I haven't seen any evidence of that. But the other part is, some scientists like to do their research privately. They don't really want to put it in the public. I'm not sure if they don't really have a whole lot of faith in the pictures and sightings that have been in the lake. There's a real hesitancy for any science to be done. I'm not sure if they're just afraid of ridicule or just what. But I approached the local university, and they said they didn't have a fisheries division, and I couldn't get anywhere. And I did talk to Paul LeBlanc and Ed Bosfield, and they're experts in, they're UBC PhDs, and they're very supportive, but they said they can't even get funding to do their research on the West Coast. Well, if they can't get funding and they're UBC professors, how is anybody else going to get funding?
True enough, and that leads to Bill's question in the SOR Space Travelers. What do you think would happen to Ogopogo if, say, a private company with funding came in and captured the creature?
Oh, well, it's a hard thing to say. Like as a plus minus, they may be fined, because they've got the creature and they can't deny it because it's physically dead right in front of them. I'm not sure what I'm not sure what would happen. It's one of those things that some things are even like on the endangered species list in BC. I don't see Ogopogo there. So the fact that it's not explicitly protected might actually add more protection, because if it isn't even named, how do you, obviously, there in a way it's better protected by not being identified. It's just a little bit of a better way to do it. My thought is, the way they're doing it now might be just the best, not actually drawing too much attention to it. And on the website, I believe they describe it as a sturgeon. Well, it's not a sturgeon. It's not true. But the other part too is, if not too many people are looking for it, you don't have the looky-loos. Maybe you're protecting it better than by drawing attention to something that would actually point to it actually existing. Once you prove something, you get all those crazy people out there to try to kill it.
And I've heard that same theory that goes along the lines with Sasquatch as well. Because Sasquatch is it's not a protected creature. It has very, very strong ties to British Columbia, and it's pretty much the exact same thing. Where people say if they go and they anywhere in North America and put, say, protective signs and protective places in there, you're going to get the poachers in there searching for the creature to try and kill one, because it's much the same as what happens in Africa. People pay a huge amount of money because they, for some reason, have the ego that they need to kill that animal for their own trophy case. We could be seeing the same thing, right?
Right. Well, I was in a boat place in Seattle a few years ago, and I mentioned Ogopogo, and the very first thing that this fellow mumbles is to poach it. I mean, that's the first thought that came to his mind. And I'm just in a fishing a boat place, and the first thing that he says after I mentioned Ogopogo is to kill it.
It is sad when that's the thinking way. Steve is asking, Steve all the way from Australia is asking, has anyone ever used, to your knowledge, side scan sonar when looking for this creature?
Yes, there was a fellow, I can't remember his name, he also has a website with Ogopogo, it comes right up. Anyway, he said the side scan didn't work very good. The only thing that worked good was a forward scan. That was his experience. He wasn't able to get any results from a side scan.
Why do you think the forward scan seemed to work better?
Not sure. He just does. He's been looking for Ogopogo for many years and has some results, but I forget what he described why it didn't work. But he did say that the side scan didn't show anything. It was only the forward scan that actually showed anything.
The population of Kelowna being so popular, I mean, you're looking between where Kelowna is and Penticton at the south end of the lake, 125 kilometers away. You're looking at a population of probably 300 to 400,000 people. Never mind the tourists, never mind the visitors to the area. I'm wondering, as we were talking earlier about the body, are you surprised then with all of that traffic along the beaches, along the waterways, on the lake itself? Are you surprised that it's been over 100 years since a body has been found?
Not really. Part of the it may be like a cannibal lake, and of course that would mean it could eat. They could eat each other. There's different, like for example, most creatures have a camouflage. That's almost essential for survival, for a creature to have some kind of skin kind of camouflage. And if a creature, besides having the camouflage, has a fear of being seen, it could go to the extent where the bodies wouldn't even show up. It would just be that much more careful to be sure that the carcass wouldn't float up to the surface as a protection to the species. It may be actually smart enough to think those thoughts.
Gail is wondering in the SOR Space Travelers Club, is there a lot of people that go mysteriously missing in the lake annually?
I wouldn't say missing. A lot of people drown, yes, but usually they find the drowned body soon after. But yes, there's a lot of people do drown in the lake, but we don't know why. Usually it's, I don't know, somebody was swimming and they got a mouthful of water from a speedboat, or somebody was snorkeling and dove down and didn't come up, and that happens quite a lot. But the bodies don't usually go missing. There's a few cases. There was a fellow, what was his name? John Murdoch. He drowned in the 1930s. His spotter boat was behind him, and the fellow bent down to light a cigarette. When he looked up, he was gone. He called the whole town to come out and look for him. He's gone. And the water was shallow and clear. The whole town came out. And then another fellow was on a houseboat, and someone's cap blew off in the wind about 4 p.m. in the summer. And so this fellow, Al Scarborough, I believe it was, this fellow, that was his boat, this fellow dove in the water, and then the next thing you know, he's looking up with a scared look on his face, and then he goes under. And so one fellow dove in to help him, and they couldn't find his body. In just seconds or a minute, he was gone. Those are two cases where the body never turned up. But most often, people just drown, and just unusual. I mean, somebody's snorkeling and dives down a few feet, 10 feet underwater, and then drowns is a little bit unusual. But usually the bodies don't go missing. People just drown.
Have you ever sat down and talked to eyewitnesses in the area, maybe locals who have had experiences up close and personal with Ogopogo, and what have they said?
Oh boy, up and close. When I don't know, trying to remember now. I haven't really talked to people that's seen the creature up and close. I mean, my Aunt Winnie talked about her brother and her dad were landscaping in the mission area of Kelowna, and they could see the lake, and they looked out and they could see Ogopogo swimming. But that would be like more than a mile away, I would think. They could see it swimming up towards the lake, and they said, "Oh, it's coming! It's getting ready for the regatta." But anyway, up and close, I guess the best would be my Uncle Jeff. He's passed on now, but he was like about 14 years old in the 30s, and when he was fishing in a canoe and saw the creature reach up 14 or so feet up in the air and grab a seagull, I mean, that's pretty up and close. I mean, he'd had to have been pretty within 100 yards of it, I would think. And he was so scared he came to shore, and the neighbors came to meet them, and the Joneses, and they stayed with them for the night and headed back. That's pretty up and close, I would think. I don't know very many other people's experience. Just the old timers that I talked to. There was a fellow, the Stubbs knew. I can't remember now his name. It's on my website, and he would fish early in the morning or late in the evening when the boats are off the lake, and he saw Ogopogo a lot of times. He said that the creature doesn't harm anybody. Don't worry about it. And he had many encounters with it. He had a friend with him one time, and he says, "I want off the lake now." So he was kind of scared, but he'd see the creature early in the morning and late at night when there weren't any boats. So he told a few stories when we had a TV company at that time, and he was quite passionate that the creature is very friendly and it poses no danger.
Gloria is asking about the bodies that have gone missing in the lake. She is asking, have all the bodies from the drowning victims come back intact, or was there pieces or bite marks in them that we may have missed?
I haven't seen, as far as I know, there's never been any bite marks or pieces. I'm pretty sure there's not been any pieces. Like for example, sharks that attack people in the ocean, usually they grab an arm or a leg or something and the person's maimed. That's never happened in the Okanagan. There's not a single case where a person has lost any limb from the creature.
Question from Eric in the Spaced Out Radio chat room. He is asking, what is the average water temperature in the lake? Is it always cold like Lake Superior? Most of the year it is. Like, you have to wait till August to go swimming. It's just cold. It's a deep lake, and it takes a long time to warm up. So towards August and September, it's actually warm enough to stay in the lake. That said, young kids can swim in the lake right in March, but I can't take that kind of cold. It's a very deep lake, and for most of the year, it's very cold. Mm-hmm. When are most of the sightings happening? Are they happening in spring? Are they happening in summertime? Is it more towards the fall and winter? When do you notice that the reports are coming out?
Summertime, mostly summertime. I mean, it's been recorded, for a good 100 years now, since the 1900s. Most of the sightings are during the summer.
And how many sightings are reported a year? Is it 10, 15 maybe more?
Well, it might be just, like you say, 10, but like Castanet said on their website a good month or so ago, they get hundreds of sightings every year reported to them. They don't post them, but they get them reported. So, it isn't just a very few. Maybe there are very few in the paper, like there was that one really good sighting, like I was telling you about in April last year, but most of them don't get any notice at all, but they do get reported. And like Castanet said, hundreds of sightings are reported, but they don't post them, so people aren't really aware. But people that kind of have a bit of a doubt. There are lots of sightings. We just don't hear about them.
I understand that. And it's one of those things where I look at that and I think to myself, it must be a warm-blooded or a cold-blooded creature then when it needs the warm temperatures in order to survive. Could I be wrong on this one then, if most of the sightings are happening? Or do you think that most of the sightings happen then because that's when most of the population is using the lake for recreation?
Well, there was one case years ago. Somebody seen the creature was frozen in ice, I believe in Kelowna. This is many years ago, in one of the Ogopogo books, and the creature was thrashing around trying to free itself from the ice. Well, it has to have some kind of ability to endure cold. If it can get survive being frozen in the surface ice of the lake. Obviously, if it's dinosaurs, lizard, well, basically we all came from the same region, but it just seems to me to say cold-blooded or warm-blooded, I'm not sure which way it would be, because from what I see, if it can live in a crevice high up in a mountain, the creature obviously is more at home than we might give it credit.
Or do you think if it does fly, that it actually travels south for the winter?
No. It just stays in one place. It just tries to stay still. Even the pictures I have, I was able to take pictures again of the creature year after year, same place. Just stays perfectly still like a log. Its best defense is its camouflage and the fact that it stays perfectly still. You wouldn't even think it was a creature. All of its positions are perfect camouflage for a log.
So it almost goes amphibian-like, where it drops its heart rate, in your opinion, so low that it could handle the cold, where it almost freezes itself to death and then thaws out during the warmer seasons in order to become active again, much like a frog would, or some fish.
There's a fish. I have what was it called? A book on it. It was a fish that I don't remember the name of it. Anyway, it's a shark that can just stay perfectly still for more than an hour, and it doesn't even need oxygen. It sort of shuts down all its functions other than its heart and its mind, that's exactly what this creature seems to do. It seems to just stand perfectly still underwater. Obviously, it would need oxygen, and a shark staying still and for more than half an hour is very unusual. But there is this shark. I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, it can walk on land too, and at the same time to stay in the same pool of water for more than an hour, just motionless and without fresh water passing by. This would seem very unusual, but this Ogopogo being related to shark comes to mind. It's very similar to this amphibian kind of shark that can just survive with hardly any oxygen. Just all its bodily functions just shut down, and it can just stay still and endure just fine.
What was late Premier Bill Bennett's response when you had a chat with him about the Ogopogo? Him being from Kelowna, and let me just explain to my audience here. Up here in Canada, where you have governors, we have somebody who is called a premier who runs the province. That's our highest political appointee. Next, up next would be the Prime Minister of Canada. Bill Bennett was one of the best premiers that we've ever had in this province, and he was from the 70s to the late 80s before he retired, and he was from Kelowna as well. And you had an opportunity to talk to him about the creature.
Yes, I did. I went to see him in the care home. I explained what I discovered, and and I asked him. I said, "Well, would the fisheries or would the government, the BC government, species at risk protect the creature?" And he said, "Well, they should," but he said, "I don't know if they would," but he said they should. And that was his words.
And is there any legislation to protect this creature? Because there was talk about it.
There was, but I understand that they repealed the legislation in the last year or so. I was told that. I don't have a fellow that was doing a presentation on the creature Ogopogo in the Kootenay Lake back in eastern BC. He said that there was legislation made to protect Ogopogo, well, probably back in '88 or something, but that legislation was repealed. So I don't know what the status is right now.
Got you. I very much understand that. Do you think that the political scene should get involved with that?
I don't know. It's like I say, most people are skeptical. I mean, there was a poll made back about a year and a half ago on Castanet, and about 30% believed there was an Ogopogo. Another 26% believed that there was a possibility that it could be true, and about 44% says no, it can't possibly exist. So then you see the spectrum of and this is in the Okanagan. So that's about where it's at. I mean, some people believe and some people don't, and to do something political, I mean, I've approached the premier and she's seen my webpage, I believe, and and that's as much as I can do, and I don't know what happens behind the scenes. Like I say, my Uncle Bill said, they should protect it, but he didn't know if they will. So what can you do?
Well, what about on a local standpoint? The mayors of the towns and cities along the lake, have they ever banded together, or is this so mythical at this point where everything is becoming so 24 hours that in reality it's more a legend and a story to them rather than the possibility of potentially being a true creature of habit?
Well, I've talked to the mayor, Doug Finlater, and I showed him a webpage, and he's seen it. He's very appreciative, and I mean, the other part about it, running for political office, you have to be careful what you say. I don't know, but, he's been very supportive. I've talked to my cousin Rusty. He's a counselor. He's very supportive and doesn't believe every picture, but he's seen quite a few of them. What can I say? I've had conversations with some of the staff at West Kelowna and showed them my pictures, quite a few of the staff, and they've been very supportive. I don't know. That's as far as I can go. I mean, I show them my website. I tell them what I've seen, and I don't know what to do with where they take it from there. I don't know what happens after that. But yes, I have approached the mayor and some of the councillors, and they've seen my webpage, and I'm not sure if they believe me or not, or what happens next. I don't know, but I have approached many, many people.
One of the things that I love about this creature is the fact that it is absolutely everywhere. It is something that has become so legendary around that people actually are out there searching for it almost on a daily basis. So I am wondering, with all the people who are out there reporting it, why do there seem to be so few people, such as yourself, who are reporting about the sightings publicly?
Good. Well, I don't know. Yeah, you might have a point there. Well, the other part, too, is I haven't seen very many people being successful in finding anything. I mean, the odd time somebody has a video, and then it's very hard to show what they see in the video. It looks like waves, and I mean, mostly the more interesting part is the video, and that seems to be. I mean, there was a good one in a video just south of Seclusion Bay, and it's you can watch an eagle diving for a fish, and this lizard-like, alligator-like creature just submerged below the water. That's a pretty good video, but it just hardly shows a single thing. So I don't know. My thought is a lot of people, they may have pictures of Ogopogo and film and videos, but they've not got very good results. So without the good results, they don't publish anything because they don't have anything to publish.
Tell us about Rattlesnake Island. What is special about Rattlesnake Island, which is a big island right in the dead center of the lake?
Oh, well, there's two islands. There's another island at the north end of the lake, too. It's a fair-sized island, I guess you could call it. There's supposedly a cave nearby, and like I say, if you went to the tourist booth in the old school, the yellow school in Peachland, they have the video, and it's about 15 minutes, and it shows a scuba dive team off of that same Rattlesnake Island, and they're exploring caves and stuff, and they take up this what looks like maybe a fish, a body, and they put it in a bag, and supposedly they send it off for testing, and it came on the news that it was just a fish, but in reality we don't know. They may or may not tell the truth. Anyway, but basically there's a lot of that video in the Peachland Tourist Center is from that Rattlesnake Island area. There was a picture from Castanet, and it was taken from Google satellite picture, and it shows a creature and from different angles. I mean, you can't doctor a Google satellite picture because it's already it's there. You can't do anything to it. And it showed like 4 flippers and a creature moving through the water from Rattlesnake Island towards Peachland. I mean, and it was a good 50 feet long or more. And you can't doctor a picture that's already taken. It was right beside Rattlesnake Island.
Do you believe that a lot of other researchers believe as well that Rattlesnake Island happens to be where the creature, maybe in an underground cave, makes its home?
Yes, I think so. There was a sighting a fellow was telling me about, trying to remember now. He said there was a fellow, he was with his wife, and his wife saw the creature right there by Rattlesnake Island and was staring at the creature and screamed, and then she went for medical help after that. And so this fellow, he didn't know whether to believe the story or not, but he looked up this fellow's name in the phone book, and he was in the phone book. So, it seemed to be a true story. This woman that saw the creature was so scared that she went into the hospital. And that was where she saw it, right by Rattlesnake Island.
What makes that island so special that it would be a home for this creature?
Well, I don't know. There's a pictograph, native painting down the beach, and it shows a picture of the lake. And you can see the contours as it sweeps kind of a semicircle. I don't know if you know how Okanagan Lake looks. It's kind of a bent kind of a shape. And so you can see the eastern side of Kelowna and the western side of West Bank. But the south, there's a real dark paint area, and it's right where Rattlesnake Island is. And so part of the lore of Rattlesnake Island is a Squally Point. And Squally Point's named because the winds pick up there, and it's very dangerous if you're on the lake when the wind picks up. The other part is dangerous if you believe in the legend of Ogopogo, because that was where the creature was supposed to live and long ago when the natives were here. And so they would take a creature or a chicken or something and give it a sacrifice whenever they crossed the lake. Anyway, on this painting, you can see a real dark mark where the island is, and Squally Point is the same place. And for them to mark it out so vividly would mean there had to be a reason. One would be that they feared the area, and maybe the other reason they feared beside the wind was because that's where Ogopogo's home was.
Have you ever been out to Rattlesnake Island to maybe check for clues or anything like that?
No, I've been to Commando Bay, just a little bit south of there, but I've never been to Rattlesnake Island.
It's just a boat ride away. You could get there.
Yeah. Well, I've just never been there. Like I say, I've been to Commando Bay, just a a kilometer or two south of there on the beach. But I've not been to Rattlesnake Island. I've hiked the area, Wild Horse Canyon and the hills in that area a few times, but I've not been to the island.
In 2003, the Okanagan was absolutely decimated by forest fires. And there were creatures seen running around the area trying to get out into safety. A lot of animals were killed, like deer, elk, moose, and a lot of animals also made their way out. There was also apparent Bigfoot sightings trying to dodge the flames. Did this affect any of the sightings around Rattlesnake Island and or the lake as well for sightings of this creature? Because, I mean, when you have a natural disaster such as this fire, which was started by a lightning storm, you know, nature takes its toll and nature tries to scatter from the area where there is disaster happening.
Well, that's a good point. And so what I mentioned to a fellow local neighbor, he said, well, when they discover there's an Ogopogo, say in Westbank, they say, well, we don't need to protect it here. We'll just leave the protection for some other place in the lake. Well, here you have that whole hillside by Rattlesnake Island, the whole Squally Point area, all the way up to Kelowna being burned out. A friend of mine, Ken Kale, said he's seen this salamander, and it had a chameleon kind of a color. It would change its color like a chameleon does. And okay, well, there's no salamander that does that. The only thing that does that is the Ogopogo. And so you have this little lizard running around the hillside and a forest fire, and the thought is, well, not in my backyard. We're not going to protect it here. We'll leave it up for development. Okay, well, that's fine, but then that is the only other place.
Hold on to that thought. We'll get to that thought right after this. I got to hop out for a break. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I'm your host, Dave Scott. Andrew Bennett is our guest. We're talking Ogopogo. We'll be back right after this.
Greetings and salutations, space travelers, from the Chronicles of the Unknown team.
What is Chronicles of the Unknown? I keep hearing about this thing.
It's a new paranormal reality TV show based right here in beautiful British Columbia, Canada. Follow our team as we uncover claims of activity on the Caribou Gold Rush Trail. You can also follow us here every third Monday, where two members of our team will be available to answer your questions. We'll give you some equipment updates and some of our experiences on the road, right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Hi there. I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with the UFOR On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
This is your medium, Joanna, from Spaced Out Weekend, 2 mediums and a large. I would love it if you would come and join us with host James Tyson every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. Together, we will take your calls and your questions live. Our goal is to provide you with a positive outlook on deep questions that you may have. Questions regarding love, relationships, money, or whatever else is on your mind. Come and check us out at spacedoutradio.com.
Have you checked out the SOR Spacewire at spacedoutradio.com yet? Every day we post the latest stories regarding the weird, strange, and completely unbelievable. From cryptid and UFO sightings to the conspiracy world, we tackle it all. Hi there, I'm Eric Markham, Space Out Radio's news director for the SOR Spacewire. And if you have a story, I want to hear it. Email me at news@spacedoutradio.com.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, We are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Every month on Spaced Out Radio, we look into the deep and dark reports of cryptids roaming around the world with me, Rob Morphy from Cryptopia.us. I would love it if you would join me and host Dave Scott as we delve into the most arcane stories and reports regarding creatures of the unknown. My job is to hunt down the details and bring the evidence forward to you. These aren't your regular Bigfoot stories I'm talking about either. You can find out more about crypto history at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Find yourself constantly looking up in the sky, looking for answers? Have you had extraterrestrial contact? Are you an abductee? Looking for answers to your experiences? Hi there, I'm R. Keith Andrews, Spaced Out Radio's resident ET expert. Join me live the first Friday of every month where I take questions from the Spaced Out Radio chat room and help you understand those from the far-off world. It's 2 hours of knowledge every experiencer should listen to. Hope to see you there.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to connect with us on Spaced Out Radio? Head to spacedoutradio.com to check out the latest shows, guests, and sponsors. And don't forget to sign up for the Space Travelers Club. You'll find all you need at spacedoutradio.com. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you along for the ride. If you're listening in the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker, if you're listening in on the SOR Space Travelers Club, or if you're on Revolution Radio, thank you so much. If you're listening on the Double R Machine, I want you to know that the Revolution Radio is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Do us a favor. Help keep it going by financing and donating today. Appreciate your time. Bill Cardwell has set the password in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Ophidian is the password. I'm sure it has to do with tonight's topic, Ogopogo. Ophidian is the password, so make sure you use it wisely if you are a space traveler as well. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. And our website is spacedoutradio.com. While there, you can join the SOR Space Travelers Club. It's only $5 a month. Your name gets put into monthly prize draws. The next prize draw will be on the 30th of this month. That's next Friday during the SOR Roundtable. That's when we make the prize draw near the end of the show. There is also room for you to join in the private chat. You get access to private group interviews and so much more. While on our website, you could read the SOR Space Wire, check out our great guitar god, Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses, by clicking on the Bumblefoot tab. And, of course, you can read our latest blogs as well. If you're looking to check out some prior episodes, check us out on TuneIn or on iTunes. Tonight, we are talking Ogopogo from West Bank, British Columbia, right near Okanagan Lake, where the legendary Ogopogo is said to have existed for literally thousands of years. We bring in Andrew Bennett, his website, sunnyokanagan.com. If you put a /Ogopogo on there, he'll take you right to all his Ogopogo information that he has. Andrew, we have a question from Eric in the Spaced Out Radio chat room, and he is asking, have you ever viewed any of these videos that are on YouTube of the Ogopogo, and what's your thoughts on some of them?
Some of them, I think, are real. I'm pretty sure there was one, like I say, just south of Seclusion Bay, taken from the highway, from off the road, off the shoulder of the road. Oh, it's a good more than 10 minutes long, I think, the video. It was well done, and there's this eagle diving down, and if you look closer, the creature surfaces just a tiny little bit, a good, 10 or more, 15 feet of the creature, just a tiny bit of a suggestion of an alligator-like creature, and the video goes on for, I think at least 10 minutes, and this eagle keeps diving down at the head of this creature, might be feeding on something, and it just goes on for quite a while. That, I thought, was a really good one. You know, it's the same area where I've done my research, too. There's other ones. There was the Casorso video. That was some years ago. John Casorso, I believe, was in a houseboat, and he heard this creature bumping into his houseboat, and he gets his camera out, and then he realizes he needs to hit stabilizer, and he got a pretty good video of it. But the hard part about the videos is it's hard to see anything more than waves. I mean, obviously he knows what he took because he was there when he took the picture. But that's the hard part about the videos is, there was a Fulton film from many years ago, and it was pretty good. They even did some work, I think, with NASA trying to figure out what the creature, the movements of the creature. But they're also fuzzy, and that's the hard part about the videos. I have pictures on film, much more close up. They're not videos, but they're film, and you can see a lot more detail than you can in the videos.
Bill Cardwell has a question for you in the SOR Space Travelers Club. That is, any chance there are deep water caves that this creature may hibernate in for decades at a time?
Oh, yes. There's a cave, about maybe 14 feet down, like I say, just sort of dug into the ground. It's not a hard rock cave. The creature is looking out from inside the cave. It's pretty obvious that this is how the creature exists. It burrows into the ground. Some of the times when the creature looks like a log, it looks like part of the creature is in the ground. And like I say, the video at the by Peachland, at the Peachland Tourist Center, they show they're scuba diving, and they see these holes in the bottom of the lake. They're little caves where the creature sort of digs its way into the bottom to sort of hide itself, I believe. I don't know. Maybe it could kind of hibernate like that. I don't know. The shark that can stay underwater without breathing is called the epaulet shark, and they can also walk on land. So it may be a similar line of evolution for this Ogopogo, and it can burrow into the ground and be amphibian-like and fly. Very, coming from shark, this is like 360 million years ago. Anything's possible.
Eric is asking in the Spaced Out Radio chat room, there is a very large salamander called the hellbender. Could Ogopogo be a variant in your opinion? They are cold-blooded but thrive in very cold water.
Yeah, I looked into that. I saw the picture of, I've seen the write-up of the hellbender. I can't remember if it was National Geographic or just what, but it was very interesting. I thought of some parallels. I agree. It does sound similar, but this creature is totally different. I mean, the hellbender can't fly, can't grow wings. There are a few items that are quite a bit different. But I do appreciate the connection. I did think of it, and I did look into it. As quite an interesting kind of lizard, that hellbender. But it seems to be a very different line of evolution.
Karen is asking, have you ever checked out the ley lines of Okanagan Lake to see if that might have anything to do with the creature?
The lake lines, what do you mean?
Well, ley lines, what they are is they're patterns on the earth where apparently there is good water, good soil, 4 seasons, something that makes the land very ripe.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure that I understand. The lake bottom is more or less kind of a clay. They did some drilling nearby at the cove when they're putting geothermal in, and they went down, and it's all kind of a gray kind of a clay. So basically that's all it is out into the lake. The whole lake bottom is kind of a gray kind of a clay. So when the creature burrows down, it's just digging into clay.
Mm-hmm. Question here. How many sightings can be attributed to decomposing logs that surface? Off gas, then sink again.
Yeah, well, it's a different... Like that would happen where you have a dam, of course, like, the Bennett Dam and all these different dams. The logs keep surfacing, but not in Okanagan Lake because there's no... They wouldn't... we get a lot of runoff from the creeks, and logs go into the lake from the runoff, quite a few. But within the next few weeks or month or so, they all sort of drift to shore, and the lake is free of logs again. I don't think they hardly ever sink that I know of, and then for them to resurface, I never seen that. There's a chance that there could be gas from the bottom of the lake. There was a fellow I knew years ago. He took a picture of these gases coming out of the lake just north of the bridge, and there was more pictures since then. There was pictures of them a few years ago moving from the bridge area, and so if they're moving, they can't be natural. I don't know. There was a story back about in the 1830s. There was a ferry boat going up the lake, and they saw a huge gas vapor come up in the middle of the lake just opposite Galatli, and it lasted for a few minutes, I believe, and it was quite a huge, kind of explosion of gas. Whether it was geothermal or actually related to the creature, I don't know. But if the gas is moving, then obviously it has to be a creature.
Mm-hmm. Tell us about your first sighting and what got you excited about this. Did you always believe in Ogopogo before you had your own experiences?
Well, I did as a kid. I think I'm not unique in that respect. Lots of young people believe in the creature, and my dad used to tease me at no end when I was a young kid. Like I say, my first clue came about 2009 when I started looking over my pictures and like I say, scanning in the video. Back a few years before that, in 2001, I'd seen this lizard-like, salamander-like creature, and I couldn't, we had a group of 20 Boy Scouts, and I took them for a tour down the beach, and it was to pay for the Galatly Heritage Park, and they all paid $10 a piece, so that's $200. Anyway, so they had 2 cub leaders, and anyway, so we get up to that bench part, and one of the kids chased out this little thing, and they said it's salamander, but it wasn't. It was a baby Ogopogo, about 14 feet long, stubby tail, orange light, didn't match any salamander I've ever seen in any picture. Anyway, so then one of the kids comes to the scout leader, and he says, "Come up here, there's a huge lizard." So the fellow goes up and has a look, and he comes back and says, "Let's get out of here now." Well, then, this is 2009, is 8 years later, and I started to put 2 and 2 together. A huge lizard and salamander that doesn't match any salamander, and etc. Exactly the same thing with this bat-like creature in the very same place. It just all added up. This is the same creature. I don't know. Like I say, the only science you probably ever see done on it will be on my webpage, because I'm pretty sure that even if the powers that be that do any research, they're not going to publish it. So you might as well just come have a look and ask me questions.
Gail wants to know if you think, or what makes you think that a lot of these sightings may not be logs floating in rougher water that are bouncing with the waves.
Oh, well, I don't know if I've ever seen anything bouncing with the waves. The pictures I have of log-like are just motionless under the lake. The camouflage is really good. If you look closer, you can see an eye, horns, and a mouth line, an extended jaw, teeth that are shark-like. But you have to look, examine a bit closer, and that you can do that with film. I've got 2-foot by 3-foot posters that show pretty good detail. You can also zoom in on a negative, and on the computer, you can see some really good detail. Like I say, with the runoff in the spring, there's lots of logs floating up and down in the lake. Obviously, you could easily be mistaken that way, but I've not taken any pictures, of anything surfacing. There's a picture my wife took of me in my kayak, and just behind me, where that same area of the beach, and there's about a 4 or 5 foot long young Ogopogo just surfacing, and it's evident in the negative at least. You can see its body just coming up, and a mouth and an eye, and it's pretty detailed in the negative. But on surface, like I say, it was coming down from the point, get towards Willow Beach in January, and I see this head surface about 2 inches above the water. This kind of like a black dome about 18 inches across, and down again in about 2 or 3 seconds. I mean, that's about the limit of what I actually seen visible above the water, other than the creature in crevices in the land, high up in the mountain.
Eric is asking, do you think with this creature being able to take flight, as is your theory, do you think that it could be more like soaring, like flying fish do?
Well, see, I wish I could see the fellow. I don't know if he took a picture, but he had seen it in 2009. The pictograph I describe is about 2 or 3 feet wide, shows very much like dinosaur-type wings, obviously wings capable of lifting a 80-pound body. So, for the creature to lift its weight, it has to have a corresponding wingspan to lift the body. So I haven't seen it flying, other than, like I say, the picture of that like young one, about 4 or 5 inches long up above the bench. I've seen that, but actually flying, I haven't. Like I said, I could hear a humming outside the canopy of the fir tree, but I didn't actually see it flying. And so I don't know what it would look like. The pictograph is pretty descriptive. It looks very much like any kind of dinosaur, but what it actually looks like when it's in flight, I don't know.
Steve from Australia is asking, how many of these surface sightings could be from boat wakes? Sometimes the boats that left them are long gone, leaving just the wake. Could it be mistaken for the sea monsters?
Oh, yeah, lots of times. I mean, almost every day I look out to the lake, I see a wave in the boat wakes, and And a boat wake can last, several minutes after the boat's gone. That happens almost, I'd say 99.99% of what I see in the lake is just boat wakes. That's true. But, when these ladies, two ladies saw this Ogopogo in April of last year, 2015, they had an eyewitness description. It was exactly like the picture taken in 1937, about 4 or 5 humps and a head, and the head was white, and it is very evident. It doesn't match any kind of living creature we know. That was not a boat wake. But yeah, generally looking out onto the lake, always all you see is just boat wakes. I hardly ever would actually see the creature.
Questions coming in from the SOR Space Travelers Club. Joe is asking, there's no chance of there being any seals or anything like that in the lake swimming up the river into the area, because I know way up on the Fraser River, the seals can go way up high, way up into almost the interior.
Interesting. I didn't know. No, I've never heard anything about seals in Okanagan Lake. Now, there's dams all up the Columbia. It'd be almost impossible to get all the way up here.
And Gloria is asking, what about freshwater otters or something along those lines?
That was a theory way back. There was a sighting by Bear Creek campground and provincial park, and it was surmised it was just simply a beaver or otter just swimming near the shore. That's how everything sort of unfolded from that sighting. I don't know. But that was a kind of a, I don't know. That was how it was explained. It just seemed like it was downplayed, that it wasn't really the creature that they saw by Bear Creek. But, it could have just been an otter. In that case, I'd agree. I don't know. If it's this creature, like what a beaver swims like, maybe all they did see was a beaver or an otter. I don't know. There was no more description than what was given at the time, and it was sort of poo-pooed a bit. Maybe all that guy did see was the otter.
Going back in history, what's the earliest recorded sightings of this creature?
About 1872, there was Mrs. Allison. She was looking out from top of Bushry Mountain, where they had their cabin. I guess it's near Quails Gate. They had a rendition of the experience in a play done last year by First Nations. It was really, really well done. And she was waiting for her husband to come back from the other side of the lake, from the Kelowna side. And it was the waves are high and the wind blowing, and she looked out and she could see this log-like thing. It wasn't moving with the waves, it was moving against the waves, and it was quite large. And she watched it for quite a while. That's about the earliest sighting. There's another one by the Postles. They were building a house just north of Kelowna and putting on a raft to float it down to Penticton. And the whole time they were building this house and putting it on the raft, the Ogopogo stood and watched from the lake. That was about 1890. So there's 1872, 1890. Those are some of the earliest reports. There was also the fellow that McDougall that was towing a team of horses behind him, crossing the lake, and he forgot his offering of a chicken. And anyway, so halfway across the lake, the horses were submerging, and something was drawing them down. And this was unusual because he'd done this before. And so he quickly cut the rope, and the horses disappeared, and he paddled to safety. It was very unusual for these horses to submerge. That was another early story.
Mm-hmm. Do you love the history of the stories? Is there a story that really sticks out for you that maybe you haven't mentioned tonight? Maybe it's of long ago or something when you've been talking to First Nations people about it that just really makes your head scratch that you would like to share?
Oh boy, I don't know. I mean, there was one time I was hiking up Goats Peak. We just get to the peak, and just beyond us is the face of the mountain facing the lake, and I could hear a poof poof, and I don't know what that was. It didn't sound like a normal sound of wind. It was just the thought that the creature could have taken flight. That was just my honest interpretation. I haven't described that thought hardly ever before, but it was just as we were coming near the summit from the backside of Goats Peak, I could hear what sounded like some creature taking flight.
Eric has a question in the Spaced Out Radio chat room, and he is asking, has anyone ever described it as maybe a manatee-like creature? Maybe it's a remnant population of the stellar sea cow.
Yeah, that is. Well, one of the descriptions I was reading in that book I was telling you about, discovering Cabosaurus, they're going up one of these inlets in the BC, and there was with some First Nations, and they see this, kind of like, I don't know how you call it, salamander-like, about 5 feet long, kind of orange-like, maybe manatee-like. But anyway, there was something about it just scared them silly, and they wouldn't go back. But it wasn't manatee-like. It was more salamander-like, but orange in color and very much matches description of what I saw, like about 14 inches long, very salamander-like. But this is 5 feet. Salamanders don't grow to 5 feet. So, there were some parallels to manatees, like this body that was found way back in the 1900s. They thought it could have been similar to a manatee. Yeah, that's true.
Has there been a lot of dinosaur fossils found in the area? Was there a lot of prehistoric history in the area before, the ice ages happened? That's something I'm not very familiar with when it comes to the Okanagan.
Well, way back up at the Bennett Dam in the tourist area, there's some bones from a Lasmosaurus, kind of like a plesiosaurus, and so there's bones way up there in northern BC. My grandfather said they discovered these huge footprints when they dug up the dam, and so there's all kinds of huge dinosaurs lived there years ago. But in the Okanagan, I don't know that life. There was a 25 million year old riverbed that went through the valley. We know that because there's gold in the riverbed from millions of years ago, all carved out from glaciers, but still some of it's intact. But, dinosaurs died up about 65 million years ago. So I've not seen anything. I've seen lots of fossils of, fauna and stuff like that, but not of any actual animals. So I'm not sure if there are any actual, I believe there is some dinosaur bones of what do you call it, Stegosaurus like sharks from Montana area. That is true, and that's very similar to this Ogopogo. Of course, that goes back millions of years, but that's encouraging because this means this Stegosaurus was in this very area of Western North America, and so that if it just simply evolved, it evolved in the same place.
Because what I'm thinking is, if this is a dinosaur-like creature, plesiosaur, or maybe even a dragon for that matter, I'm wondering if there has been remnants of skeletal bones found from previous creatures, maybe in the bedrock of the mountains, or maybe washing up on shore, or maybe there's been archaeological type digs around there.
I don't think anything around here. Like I said, I went to Tyrone Museum. I was there for 2 full days. I went through all their displays. They have a area where they have plesiosaurs and different kind of water creatures and stuff. I took a lot of pictures and videos, and because they record some of the sounds, I think. And I looked at everything, and I couldn't see anything that looked like what I've seen. This path of evolution from 360 million year old Stegosaurus shark was totally different than anything I saw in that Tyrone Museum, Royal Tyrone Museum. As good a job they have done in preserving the dinosaurs, it's good, but there was not a likeness to anything in any of that to the Ogopogo. It's like it was a separate evolution, not only separate, but not even recorded. It just like there's a huge gap between Stephacanthus shark to Ogopogo.
How many sightings have you had personally in 2016?
Oh, well, I'd limit it to the creek, Powers Creek, where our horse farm is. I took some pictures, what I believe was the creature, and I could see what looked like a rock with eye sockets. Well, rocks don't have eye sockets. And then a week later, the rock turned around about 45 degrees. Well, rocks don't just turn, not without any water. So, yeah, that's about my experience this year.
You seem to have an affinity for being able to capture this creature in photographs or in some sort of way. Do you think you have a connection to it spiritually or psychically?
No. The only thing like I say, the only thing about the creature is, its timidity or its fear of being seen. Just seems to be how do you say? Its way of survival. It seems to realize that it would be in danger if it was made visible. That's every creature on Earth lives by some kind of camouflage or method of evasion. It's not far-fetched for this creature just to be very, very fearful for human contact.
Do you love researching this creature? Do you think that it is something that is a passion for you that you will continue maybe until the day you just can't do it anymore? Because looking at your research on your website, sunnyokanagan.com, if you go to the Ogopogo site, it's /Ogopogo, you seem to have a lot of great reports on there.
Oh, yeah, it's interesting. Well, like I say, you're not going to get anything from any scientist. I don't know if they do any of this type of research. It's hard to get any funding for any of it. And like I say, I don't, I don't even know if anybody is doing anything, but even if they are, they're not going to be publishing it, other than Paul LeBond and Ed Bosfield and different ones that have done work on the Catosaurus. I don't know of anybody doing any professional scientific work on Ogopogo, and even if they are, I don't suppose they would publish it. So your best bet is just to ask me questions and have a look at my webpage.
Eric is asking in the Space Out Radio chat room, have there ever been any searches done with hydrophones looking for anomalous sounds?
Well, I did years ago. It was like 20-some years ago. I had a hydrophone I borrowed from the Vancouver Aquarium for about 2 or 3 months of the summer, and I did get some interesting sounds. I wasn't sure, it sounded like a frog, and then it's on my webpage, kind of an eerie kind of a sound. It matched some of the sounds I heard at the Tyro Museum in the Plesiosaur section of what dinosaurs would sound like underwater. It just sounded similar. I have a recording from a trail camera way up in the hill, and it records in the dark. It records sound. I guess trail cameras are triggered by sound as well as motion, and the sounds are pretty scary. It's way up in the mountain, so there are sounds. I don't know what to say. Like I say, hearing something in the creek croaking like a frog, but just way louder than a frog. It just it gives you second thoughts about what you're hearing.
Follow-up question from Eric. Are there any large turtles, like alligator snapping turtles, in the lake?
No turtles. No sturgeon, no turtles, no seals, just kokanee and trout. And suckers, yeah.
Getting back to the vocalizations, has anyone ever recorded it vocalizing? Do we know of a sound? For instance, with Bigfoot, people have recorded sounds that they perceive to be a howling type that isn't quite a wolf or a coyote or even a cat for that matter. Has anybody recorded any sounds of it?
Boy, I haven't heard of any. like I say, my trail camera seemed to pick up some sounds. I guess it's triggered by sound, but kind of eerie kind of sounds. But and the hydrophone I used that year from the aquarium in Vancouver, it had, that recording of kind of a sound similar sound to the Tyro Museum, the plesiosaur section. But I don't know. When I asked the people at the Vancouver Aquarium about it, they said it sounded more like a digital, like a mechanical sound than a actual creature. That was their thought. So maybe they're right. I don't have a sound of what Ogopogo sounds like, but I do have it on my web page. You can hear it. Just near the bottom, you'll see the link, and you can listen to it. It's MP3, and it may very well be Ogopogo.
Do you see in the future, as research goes, as technology grows as well, that there might be a time in the near future that this creature could be publicly announced as existing?
Oh, yes, certainly. It's very simple. If it's not going anywhere, it's still there. I can't second guess. I would think that the people that, fisheries and different things will, do the right thing and try to protect the creature. Some of the best ways to protect it is to actually not acknowledge it. And by not acknowledging it, of course, the crazy people don't come out and try to kill it because the crazy people don't have any evidence to go by. That's one hopeful part about it. As time goes on, people will just forget about the creature, and maybe that's the design. I don't know. My thought is I'd just rather research the creature and find the interesting things about something that we don't know about. I think that's worth my time and effort, but I don't know whether the actual people that are in government do any research or if they have any intention of publicizing any of it or any of that. Probably they would try to avoid any kind of acknowledgement of it and maybe protect it that way. That might be their objective, but it just seems to me it's too interesting just to hide away.
I guess the reason why I'm asking about the technology that people have is, we see drones flying all over the place. We see underwater cameras starting to get very high-resolution photos, almost in HD. We see a lot of equipment being used now that is used in the oceans for research on sharks or squid or whales or any type of underwater life source in trying to get footage of it. Do we know of any expeditions recently that are using any of these high-tech equipment in order to try and go through the lake?
Yeah, well, there have been a few people, film crews, come through the Okanagan, but I never heard about them, and I only heard about them after they had gone, so I couldn't help them because they never asked me, and I didn't know anything about their coming. So as far as I know, they went empty-handed. They had their equipment and stuff, and they came, but they went. They never got anything. They never asked me.
How many people in Kelowna are researching Ogopogo?
Oh, there's Bill Stesiak. I met him over coffee one time a year or two ago. There's a few other people. Obviously, one of our neighbors said they overheard a conversation in Penticton in a restaurant. There's several people got together to talk about Ogopogo. So I imagine the people here and there are interested. Like I say, the hard part is hard to find any evidence. I was very fortunate in 2009 to go over my photos and negatives and actually figure out where it was. The hope is that the creature is undisturbed and is still there. Best I know it is, but what else can you do? And I don't know if probably the reason we haven't heard from anybody else is they don't have any pictures. It's very hard to figure out where it is and what you have. And like I said, it took me a process of many years. It's been like 15 years or more now 17, since I first started to look at my photos. Lots of people could be looking, I'm sure they are, but whether they actually get anything, I don't know.
It's one of those studies that, much like Bigfoot, it just may never ever come to that final answer, whether or not it is alive, whether or not it's going to stay a mystery. Have you come to the conclusion, or are you satisfied that as you grow older, that by the time your turn comes to leave this planet, and hopefully it's a long, long, long time from now, that you still may not have the answers that you were looking for?
Well, yeah, it's not the most important thing. The most important thing is what we're looking for afterlife. That's the most important thing. It's interesting, though. I mean, it's, like I say, is a creature that's unidentified for like 360 million years. And can swim and fly and walk on land. It's very interesting, but you know, as like you say, you mentioned him a long time after, and then when I leave this earth, well, that's exactly where I'm aiming for, is where I'm going. But you know, so whether this creature is proven or not is really not that important.
Eric has another question for you. He says, you apparently know where the creature tends to stay. Would you ever guide a research team to that area?
Oh, sure, I would, but no one's asked me.
Would you ever put your name out there for it?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Would that be something that interests you at this point?
Oh, sure. Certainly, it's very simple. Yeah. Anybody wants, I can show.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's very intriguing that, you know, for someone with your research, that you haven't got that call yet.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know. It is what it is. You know, one of those things is maybe people have a hard time, you know, seeing the things that I see, but I can see the detail there, and, you know, details that it's all, you know, like I say, the creature's describing its head with the tongue sticking out, the mouth line, the eye, the head, the flipper, and, you know, it's all there. I don't know. It's very simple. I don't know if the creature stays underwater, directly under the underwater shelf or not, but, you know, I'm satisfied to have the right information, and it's true, but I don't know if anybody wants any more information. They can always ask me, and I can certainly take them to the place. And there's not just one place, there's several places.
Well, you know, it's something that I would take you up on that. And you never know. You know, I know the team from Chronicles of the Unknown, they want to start expanding in their season 2 from cryptids to, from ghosts to cryptids, and lake monsters, and Ogopogo is on their list. So we may have to have you out for that, Andy.
Oh, certainly. I'd be obliged, no problem.
When you look at this creature and you look at the photographic evidence that you have been able to photograph on this, have you ever taken those photographs to any scientists, whether they're local or university, and asked them to decipher what they see?
Oh, yes. I took them to the Tyrol Museum, and I talked to the president, and I showed him my pictures on my laptop. And he said, I believe you, but he said, for science, you have to have a body. He pointed to the corner, and they had a big a fossil of a bird, about 2 foot by 2 foot, and you could see the wing. And he said, well, we had it there, and they had people from all over the world came to see it and take pictures of it and study it, and they all tried to discredit it. And it took a whole year for all these people to come and see it before it was acknowledged that it was actually a flying dinosaur. So he said, you know, for science, the only thing that you can do is have a body. Otherwise, you won't get anywhere. He said he believed my pictures, but he said, you know, and the way it is now, because it's so much skepticism for everything, that you have to have a physical body.
Does that bug you that with the evidence that has been shown, your photographs, videos of the creature, that mainstream science, yes, they've done their tracking and their sonars throughout the lake over and over again, and they have popped up that there might be an anomaly or two below us, that they still haven't given any type of true respect to what this creature may be?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Some people, I don't know. Like, for example, people that are kind of mean-natured, I'm not sure that that's a topic, mean-natured people like to use against other people, because then they can use it and ridicule them. And similarly, if anybody was doing science or on Ogopogo, these mean people will ridicule the scientists, and probably they don't want to be ridiculed, so they don't bother.
And it's the same thing with Bigfoot as well. I know John Bindernagel, who's an environmentalist. He's got his science degree. He's been looking for Bigfoot for close to 70 years, and there are people in the field, in his own type of colleagues, who are still making fun of him. And in reality, science is supposed to be about the unknown. It's supposed to be taking some of these theories and thoughts and experiences people have to try and prove them. Yet the scientific community, when it comes to cryptids, really seems to turn the light switch right off. I find that personally frustrating. How do you feel about that?
Well, yes. Not sure how to describe it. Like I said, I approached the local university. There was nobody in the field. There was no study. Went to UBC, talked to Paul LeBlond and Ed Bosfield. We had a good conversation on the phone, and like I say, he published his book last year, Discovering the Cadbosaurus. But I don't, I'm not sure. Maybe it could be they don't, scientists don't actually believe that there is such a thing. It seems too far-fetched, and they don't have enough faith there could be such a thing. They don't believe it in the first place, and that could be part of the obstacle. And then there is ridicule. There are a lot of things. There are just not that many unknown mysteries that are still out there, and Ogopogo is just one of those things. And some people have a hard time believing in things that they've never seen. If they haven't seen it, they don't believe it. It's just the way that people are.
So in your opinion, in detail, what do you think has to be done in order to prove this experience of Ogopogo to the mainstream?
A body. There is a hard part too. I mean, if you did find a body and you presented it to science, I mean, they may say, well, we thought it was a myth, therefore it's okay. There's the other part where they say, okay, you got a body, you killed it, we're going to fine you. I'm not sure which way it would go. So, and I wouldn't really want to harm the creature, and to capture a body may or may not be able to, I mean, a smaller one, but, it could be not very safe, and I wouldn't expect to have a whole lot of help trying to capture a creature. And then why do it in the first place? Because the creature is, happily in its hibernation kind of state most of the time. What's the motive to capturing it? And it kind of spoils the effect too, because if it's proven, then it's no longer a mystery. So the way it's going is pretty good. I wish that maybe some science was done, and like I say, if they do any science, they're not going to publish it, so your best bet is to go to my webpage and ask me questions.
Eric is asking, have you ever reached out to any of these Ogopogo researchers and asked to compare notes with them?
Yeah, I talked to Bill Stasiak a couple of years ago, and had tried to compare notes a little bit. He's taken some sonar pictures and such, and he had some success, pretty good, but I haven't followed up. He hasn't contacted me, and that's how it goes. I just haven't had any more contact than that. There's been a few film companies, but like I said, CMHA Productions had a series on what was it called, Monsters, and it was, a very similar pattern of descriptions of the Lake Champlain lake monster, and etc. And it was, pretty well done documentary, I thought. But that's been about it.
It would be amazing if we were able to actually have a live capture of one of these creatures and maybe do a tissue sample, maybe tag it so we know what its patterns are, or if it does fly. I think that would be phenomenal if we had the ability to do that.
Oh, yeah. Well, it really isn't that hard to do, but like I say, there is no gaming money really for those type of things. I asked a local scuba diver, and he says, well, we don't get any gaming money because that's the grant money people get for any scuba diving event. So if there's no money to support it, it's hard to see how it could be done. I mean, I wouldn't mind investing myself, but really, I mean, there's no money given for doing any kind of underwater work in BC. So if there's no money there, mostly people won't do it. I would like to see it.
Yeah, me too. Are there any other underwater cameras set up in certain hot spots to see if we can get any film footage on the Ogopogo?
I asked about that. If somebody, I can't remember now, researcher, maybe worked for National Geographic years ago. Anyway, he said that they do have cameras that they rented for their work in National Geographic, but they're very expensive. It's like just $10,000 maybe to rent the camera. And the problem with having a trail camera underwater, an underwater trail camera, is the water moves around, so you'd be constantly taking videos. Well, then you would get 99% videos of nothing. The water is murky. There is no motion detection like you have for a trail camera. So if you don't have motion detection, how do you trigger your video? And the cameras they use, for any of those, really good in-depth productions for National Geographic are really, really expensive. So there is no underwater trail camera. It doesn't work. I asked the fellow, and he went to great length explaining to me how they don't exist. There's just no way to do that underwater.
Has the city ever conducted any experiments, or the cities and towns along the lake ever conducted or brought people in to do any experiments to once and for all maybe clear the myth or confirm the myth?
I don't know of any. I was down, like I said, I had the regional district on a boat 3 weeks ago, and I showed them while we're down there where I saw Ogopogo. I don't know. They took note, GPS and pictures and stuff. A little bit of that was evident in the lake bottom, but what else can I do? That's as about it. I was invited to show them the pictographs, and I did, and I showed them where Ogopogo is, and I don't know where it goes from there. We were there, and that was just 3 weeks ago. But I don't know what happens after that. It's up to the powers that be to determine what happens next.
How far do you go with this? Because you're funding it out of your own pocket, you're doing your own research, and it really seems that, you're almost like a lone wolf in the field. Even though there's, 150,000 people in Kelowna, there only seems to be not even a handful of people really trying to either prove or trying to prove and protect this creature.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I say, other than Arlene Gall and Paul Stasiak, that's about the only people I've talked to, and a few eyewitnesses here and there, and that's about it. I have no idea. It was very hard to do, and was able to do, get some success from what I've done, like I've described on my webpage. But far as I know, nobody else has.
Does that frustrate you?
It's not too bad. I mean, I get ridicule from friends and family all the time, here and there, little ribbings and stuff, comes and goes. But, I don't know. It's one of those things. In a way, it's kind of nice that it's not proven. It's nice to have a bit of a mystery. I mean, it would be nice if, sure enough, that you would see it on the frontline news and everybody would hear about this and all detail and everything. That'd be fun. But, in a way, it's kind of nice that it's still a mystery.
Would you prefer it in be-all and end-all, all said and done, would you prefer it to be a mystery?
I kind of would, if for the sake of the creature, because, like I say, just even mentioning Ogopogo in a fishing store, and the first thought comes to mind to the clerk was to kill it. I mean, like, how far do I really want to go? Yeah, that's kind of worrisome, yeah.
If you got solid proof that, let's say, you're walking along the beach one day and there it is, there's the body.
Oh, yeah, I'd report it.
You would?
Yeah.
Even though you want it to stay a secret?
Oh, yeah. Well, at that point, you have a body. It didn't actually do anything illegal. Just report it.
Would you be hesitant to turn it over to the government in case they don't allow the public to know?
Not really. You just let them do what they would do. It's up to them what they do with it. That's why they're in government. They're supposed to represent the people. The best I can do is present to them. I've shown quite a few of them, the mayor, the premier, my webpage, and a lot of different individuals in government. And what they do with it is up to them. That's not my department. The best I can do is bring the evidence to them, and where they take it from there is up to them.
So the other two researchers who you are dealing with,
yeah,
do they hold the same thought pattern as you?
Oh yeah. Well, their research is a Cabosaurus, Paul LeBlond and Ed Bosfield. Yeah, they're very supportive. They've done a little bit of research in interior BC too. That's why they say there's often a Ogopogo, one or two in a small lake, and quite often. But is, for example, Wood Lake and Kalamalka. But yeah, they've done a little bit of research in the interior, but their main research is a Cabosaurus on the west coast. And like I say, they have a publication just published last year. That's pretty good. It's pretty well identical. I asked their webpage, and I said, could it be one creature? They said, no, it has to be two. It must be two different creatures. But my thought is pretty much it sounds like just one creature.
My friend, we only have about a minute left with you. I would love it if you could break down what people can find at sunnyokanagan.com about your website and about Okanagan and about the Ogopogo.
Oh, well, there's a native painting of a flying Ogopogo dinosaur. That's one of the best ones. There's a lot of stuff on my private page, so just ask me for my private page and you'll see lots and lots more detail. It's, I don't know, it's kind of a Ogopogo story. It starts from the 1870s right to the present, and a lot of sightings that aren't in other sources are published there on my webpage. And just feel free to ask me any questions you like, and I'd be delighted to help.
Quick question from Bill. Have you ever thought of bringing on a young person to learn from you who can take over your research one day?
Oh, yeah. There was a young fellow, Raphael. He did some work with his underwater camera. I'm not sure if he got any results, but I never heard from him again. So he was quite excited, and he did go out there and take pictures, but I'm not sure what his results were. And yeah, so that was one contact I did have, but I'm not sure where he took it from there.
My friend, I want to say thank you for being on Spaced Out Radio tonight. It's time for old Davey here to start shutting things down. So I want to say thank you from your home in West Bank. You live in God's country in British Columbia. I can say that, Andrew. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dave. I'd like to be on your program.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure. You hold on. I'm going to tell everybody that tomorrow night on this show, Sam Baltrusis, author extraordinaire, will talk about the most haunted crime scenes in America tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time, right here on the mighty Spaced Out Radio. We're doing it all again in exactly 21 hours from now. Good to have you along for the ride. Really appreciate you taking the time. God, I love doing this show. Everybody makes me happy. You guys all, in the chat rooms, you were packed, you were active, asking some great questions. That's how we get it done around here, and we're going to do it all again tomorrow night. Remember, spacedoutradio.com is our website. Check it out. If you missed this or any other broadcast, you can go to TuneIn or iTunes to download it today. You all have a good one out there. Take care. We'll talk to you tomorrow night. Bye-bye.